A poor young peasant boy just lost his grandfather. The young one's old man was killed by being severed in half. As much as he tries, he wasn't able to cry. Despite the old man being the only family of the young man, no sadness thrilled his heart. As the boy contemplates the burning hut, he thinks of how much of a heartless bad person he really is. One day, the boy came back to the old man and proudly showed him the spirit connection herb in his hand. Grandpa praised his grandson, who claimed that the herb was located in the eastern part, just as the old man claimed. According to the man, the big spiritual connection herb would be worth 5 nyang, and according to the boy, there was also a fox den only with the babies without their mother inside. Worried, the old man asked his grandson if he unalived the baby foxes. The kid denies, stating that taking the lives of the little foxes would sadden their mother. The old man praised the boy and told him to put his basket aside for dinner. The grandpa asked Jong to promise him one thing. Intrigued, Jong asked what it may be. The old man asked his grandson to never reveal his true self to anyone. The bloodthirsty boy apologized to his dead family. As the young man reaches for his scythe, he claims that he would never be able to keep such a promise. Jong picked up the scythe, letting out a roar symbolizing his revenge. In the peaceful Zhongyang country, a carriage was rolling across the city. A bunch of beaten-up men were transported in the carriage. The crowd looked at the captured mountain bandits and criminals with hate and disgust. As a cage with one inmate in it was passing, the people wished for the prisoners to die. As the prisoners passed, a man on the window asked about the one in a single cage, which intrigued his friend. The young man inside the cage was pretty wounded and well detained. As he sips his tea, the one on the window claims that the boy must be as young as the master. The other man claims that he shouldn't be underestimated due to his youth and might be the most dangerous one detained, which the first guessed since he was locked in a separate cage. As he orders another drink, the one in yellow claims that the inmate doesn't impress his friend, who's part of the Murim. According to the fat man, the boy was nicknamed the Scythe Demon Killer for his many massacres, but the hat was not impressed and called him a petty murderer. The one in yellow asked the other one what does he seek this time, to which he responded, engaging someone. The ideal candidate must be in his youth and no one would be bothered by his death. Suddenly, a rock hit the head of the young prisoner. The one who threw the rock screamed that he deserves more than God's punishment. As the crowd continued insulting the young man, something grasped the employer's attention. The young one just sat there and took the insults. The man with the hat couldn't believe his own eyes. Jong was the prisoner, wounded and covered in blood. After seeing him, the employer quickly got up, canceling his request, while his friend states that the killer's pretty face looks like a woman. The one with the sword walked away from the table while the other one started to shout, demanding an explanation. The soldier was now outside in front of the boy's cage. It seems that the man found what he was looking for. Jong was the perfect one to hire. It was now the nighttime at the inner castle of Zhongyang, the Golden Jade Hall. Inside, the prison cells were heavily guarded. The protagonist was in a cell alone with 2 soldiers guarding it. Jong claims that he was too careless. The young boy started to think about the one he hates. A scary, scared man claims that the boy is impressive. As he choked the protagonist, the man claims that it was unexpected to discover that it was an unknown kid who was tracking them. Jong thought of him as a monster. After a long search and defeating all the others, the boy was easily defeated by his grandfather's killer, and fighting him again would only result in the same defeat. Jong was unable to find a way to take him down. The boy then remembers the killer calling him a child no one knows. Suddenly, Jong uttered the words martial arts. The young man wondered if the mastery of martial arts would bring him victory over his grandfather's butcher. But Jong quickly ditched this idea since he might never be able to learn it. Suddenly, a weird gas entered the room. This weird substance intrigued the Scythe Demon. Since he smelled multiple herbs with his grandfather, Jong could tell that this is no smoke or fire and even started to identify the gas components. Lizard tail and purple parsnip were part of the composition. As the guard started to get sleepy, he identified the presence of valerian root. When the soldier fell down, he noticed the valerian root. Jong could tell that it was a sleeping gas. Even a young herbalist inhaled the gas. Finally, Jong closed his eyes. The Scythe Demon Killer's cell door was then opened. Someone started to enter the beast's cage. It was none other than the man with the hat. The soldier decided to use the sleeping aroma to abduct his perfect candidate. Suddenly, as soon as the chains retaining the demon came off, the boy started to move. The man with the hat was intrigued and confused. Jong was never asleep, but pretended to be. But before he could grasp the situation, the soldier's swordsman received a stunning knee in the gut. Jong took this opportunity and started to run away. Despite being confused, the boy, who managed to stay awake due to the bad preparation of the sleeping gas, took this opportunity to escape. Suddenly, the killer started to shake. Jong's back was struck multiple times. The man with the hat claimed that the boy was now paralyzed since he was hit in his pressure point. The shocked Jong didn't notice the man catching up and wondered if this was martial arts. After that, the kidnapper threw his ideal candidate into a wall. Jong realized that the man was a martial artist and wondered if he was the one responsible for his grandfather's demise. The boy realized that although they looked the same, the killer had a scar on his left eye. Suddenly, someone walked up to them and asked the hat man guard Cam if Jong was his ideal candidate. As the kidnapper told his master to wait outside, the one with the veil claimed that he always wanted to see the inside of a prison and claimed that it is just boring and smelly. The master asked guard Cam to bring him a chair and get the boy back up in order to properly see his face. The man with the hat brutally sat the prisoner. As he lifted his veil, the master claimed that Jong looks just like him. The boy was astonished at what he'd seen. The young master, who is a perfect copy of the protagonist, believed that their meeting at this time was fate and destiny at stake. Jong was left speechless as his Sozi laughed in his surprised reaction. The young master claimed that the boy will be executed in 2 days. Jong affirmed his future death. Cam's master stated that life is unjust since he's a young master and the one in front of him will be executed despite looking so much alike. Jong didn't respond to what the rich one said. The young master decided to offer the prisoner a rare opportunity, which intrigued the wounded boy. Jong was offered by Mok Gyeongwon to replace him as the third master of the great sword Mok Manor. The young inmate was surprised by the sudden offer. Mok explained that all he had to do was spend his day in a manor enjoying the privileges he never tasted, like pretty servants, a comfortable bed, and exquisite food. The young master then added that once it's all over, Jong will be rewarded with a nice sum of money that would allow him to be free wherever he decided to go. The man with the hat showed the inmate a red candy that he should eat as a way to seal the deal, according to Mok. Intrigued, the young man asked if it was poisoned, to which Cam responded by stating that it's a safety measure since he's an inmate. The guard of the young master affirmed that the herbalist will get the antidote at the end of the job and asked him about his decision. As he stared at the candy, the boy thought about his dead grandpa. He thought about how he received his second chance. Jong decided to eat the candy. Cam and Mok observed him as he swallowed the poison. An evil smile was drawn on the face of the young master. Finally, Jong the demon scythe killer was given another chance to avenge his dead grandpa. The boy kept a straight expression as he swallowed the red candy. Jong then asked Mok if he would really receive this another chance. The young master praised him for his choice. Mok then asked his guard to undo the herbalist's handcuffs and the pressure point seal that he put on him. As the young master ordered, the pressure points were released. Next, the handcuffs were undone. Jong was now free to move again and relieved to be. Cam then told his master that he will lead them to the exit, so he should follow them from the back. Mok ordered Jong to walk in front of him. The man with the hat looked both ways to clear a path. Cam was shocked to see the inmate holding his master's face. The demon scythe killer snapped the third young master's neck by turning it all the way to the back. Guard Cam was shocked by his master's sudden brutal death. The corpse of Mok fell to the ground. The demon jokingly played his kill as a slight mistake and asked the man with the hat what he will do next. With a devious smile, the bloody demon boy claimed that he killed the fake. A building, the panicking people in it, was set on fire right before the demon boy was arrested. Someone was carrying a severed head through the flames, enjoying the moment. Jong was attacking everyone in the room with his scythe, taking pleasure out of it. A crazy smile cracked on the scythe demon's face as he butchered everyone in the room who he thinks might be related to his caretaker's demise. As he looks at the corpses and blood hiding the floor, the young man realizes that this massacre brought him joy. Jong thinks about the true nature his grandpa was talking about. The scythe of the demon boy was now soaked with blood. As he throws the head in his hand, he starts to wonder about the look on his face in the massacre. The boy's hand was soaked in blood while lost in his thought. The crazy demon was surprised to find a smile on his face. Jong remembers the words of his grandfather and wondered if this is what the old man was talking about. The last man alive begged the serial killer to spare him. Jong started to wonder if he was truly evil. The slaughtering scythe demon was unsure of his true nature, but was surely focused on killing the last man breathing. Suddenly, the young man received an astonishing kick in the gut. A mysterious warrior sent the kid flying into the wall with a single kick. Jong hit the wooden wall at a high speed. As the young boy struggles to stand up, the warrior was intrigued while the last of the men ran away. The man with the scar was surprised to see the young man still breathing and thought that it was spectacular as he drew his sword. Our protagonist was unable to speak while thinking about the one that kicked him. Jong could definitely tell that the man with the scar was a danger to him. The man then took a proper fighting stance. The one with the scar immediately noticed that the young maniac was ignorant of the martial arts. In a flash, a swordsman dashed in the boy's direction while claiming that the demon survived his strongest move. Jong was then grunting in pain and grabbed by the neck. The slaughtering scythe demon had a hard time believing his interested choker was a normal human since he managed to instantly cover the wide distance between the both of them. The man with the scar confessed that he was wondering about the one tracking him down, but was shocked to find an inexperienced kid in martial arts, which intrigued the young man. But before Jong could ask his question, the warrior stabbed him in the stomach. The boy in pain started to cough up blood. The man with the scar stated that Jong was a child that was able to tank his ultimate move without paying with his life. As the choker reinserts his blade inside the mass murderer, he affirms that the demon should be purged right here and now. According to the warrior, Jong should have led a peaceful existence since his own crimes led to his own early doom. The boy was easily bested by the one who killed his grandfather. As the scythe demon starts to lose consciousness, he thinks that he will meet his end. Luckily, the inmate was still alive but will soon be executed. The boy deeply wishes for a new chance. This time he affirms that he will not lose it. The demon swore to grip to this chance whatever it takes. Guard Cam was shocked to see Jong snapping the neck of Mok. The body of the third master then dropped to the ground. With a maniac smile, the boy asked the man with the hat for his next action. The bloodthirsty demon affirms that he killed the fake one. Suddenly, the angry Cam grabs the inmate by the neck and slaps him into the wall. The man with the hat was furious at the stand-in killing his master and asked him if he has a death wish. But the smiling Jong affirms the contrary, since his role is to replace the real master in case of danger. As he tightens his grip around the hand that is choking him, the clever demon affirms that obeying blindly would surely lead him to his death. Guard Cam was surprised by the young man's impressive strength. As he tries to remove the inmate's grip from his hand, the man with the hat asked him if he wasn't afraid of being killed by him. Guard Cam was shocked to see Jong guessing the lack of a bond between him and his master, which justifies the killer being not dead yet. Not wanting to face reality, Guard Cam slapped the boy into the ground. The boy was completely overwhelmed by the man's move. Guard Cam then pulled a dagger from behind his back. With a cold look in his eyes, the man with the hat affirmed to the boy that he will kill him. Jong asked if his death was really inevitable. The intrigued Guard Cam asked the demon boy why he should spare him. The clever young man stated that he has to obey the holder of the poison's antidote or else he will die. Curious, Guard Cam asked Jong if he meant betraying the mock house and using him as his pawn. The slaughtering scythe demon's smile confirmed the servant's assumption. Guard Cam kept silent and thought for a while. The man finally made his choice. Suddenly, Guard Cam decided to strike with his dagger. The sound of a stab was heard. Guard Cam's knife pierced something. Jong looked blankly at the blade a few inches away from his face. The man with the hat sheathed his dagger. Jong will now be known as Mok Gyeongwon. A smile cracked on the boy's face. Bloodlust and revenge were dwelling in the slaughtering scythe demon's overjoyed eyes. But in the mock sword manner, the man with the hat imposed his conditions. The stand-in had no rights to interact with the inhabitants of the manor. The puppet stated that his role isn't different from a stand-in, but Cam affirms that you shouldn't question him since he chose this position and getting discovered will get him killed by the poison. But the puppet master had more to say, which piqued the boy's curiosity. Guard Cam affirmed to the boy that he will kill him instantly if he tries to rebel. With a blank smile, Jong agreed to the last condition. Guard Cam called the demon creepy and gave him the poison neutralizer that will stop the poison's lethal effect every 24 hours. Dawn started to rise on the sword mock manor. The young boy was thinking about his good luck. Not only did Jong survive the man with the scar, but also got to enjoy the new luxury. The scythe demon, who believed that his survival was his dead caretaker's doing, promised to not rest until avenging the old man. Only revenge was stuck on the boy's mind. Since the dead Mok Gyeongwon was discovered, Jong thinks that the man with the scar assumed that it was his dead corpse. The scythe demon started to think about martial arts. Jong was told that the third young master belonged to a martial clan, so he will impersonate him in order to learn their techniques. The next step of the plan was to find the old man's killer. Jong remembers the severed state he last saw his dead grandfather in. A smile was drawn on his face at the thought of ripping the man with the scar in half just like he did with the protagonist's grandfather. It was now noon. The boy was thankful for his survival. As he eats his meal, he thinks of the chance he got to learn martial arts. Only something seems to be bothering the young man. The guard that the puppet master put for the puppet turned out to be bothersome. The disciple of Guard Cam, Go-chan, was guarding the entrance of the room. Something seems to be irritating the disciple. Go-chan thinks that his master became soft and wondered what this martial arts ignorant demon had in particular. Earlier, after the disciple learned the death of the young master, he panicked and asked his master about their plan. After cutting the loud disciple mid-sentence to shush him, Cam informed his student that his role remains the same. The master ordered Go-chan to surveil the demon boy and to keep him inside his room until he comes up with a new plan. After finding a new plan, Guard Cam decided to get rid of Jong. The man plans to switch to the enemy side after throwing the boy out. Go-chan brought up the fact that Jong is poisoned. The disciple thinks that the boy was unable to rebel, but just as he was about to mention the dead mock, he was intrigued by the master claiming that the boy is not it. Guard Cam affirms that the demon boy was the rebellious kind and a quick thinker since he snapped the third master's neck in order to steal his identity. As he continues his way, the master informs his disciple of how risky it is to engage with the slaughtering scythe demon. Go-chan was annoyed since he can't defy his master, who made him watch over a poisoned kid that isn't even familiar with martial arts. Jong could hear the guard tapping his foot out of frustration on the floor. The boy was intrigued by the reason his kidnapper, who put a single guard at his door, wanted him to be a stand-in. After a few days, the fake master grasped the atmosphere of the manor and could tell that it is safe enough to not need stand-in services, which left the boy suspicious of his role. Jong theorized that Guard Cam won't tell him the reason behind his presence. A smile was drawn on the maniac's face. The crazy boy finally realized that the puppet master aims to join the enemy side. Go-chan was still guarding the door. Guard Cam's disciple fell asleep standing. The man was suddenly woken up by the fake master opening the door. Confused, the guard asked if the kid wanted to go to the bathroom, but he denied, saying that he needed to walk outside and ask the man a few questions. The irritated disciple of Guard Cam immediately told the boy to get back to his room or else you will beat him up. As Go-chan grabbed the imposter by the collar, the demon of the site stated that it won't cause issues if it is kept between them. Suddenly, the disciple slapped the puppet to the wall. Go-chan ordered the former inmate to re-enter his room and to stop his arrogance, since angering him would only bring harm. The demon boy stood silent for a second before claiming that the master was stronger than the student. Suddenly, the imposter grabbed the confused guard's shoulder. Jong lifted the man over him to throw him to the ground. Go-chan was in pain, restrained on the floor by the young man. Jong then tried to go for his opponent's pressure points. The guard was immobilized and had a hard time believing that the martial arts newbie used the pressure point seal on him. Go-chan now believed that the fake master was familiar with martial arts. Jong was surprised by the disciple's movement and wondered if he wrongly imitated the technique of guard Cam. The student was shocked to hear that the boy imitated his master's technique after seeing it one time. Go-chan realized that Cam was right about that boy being a danger. Scared, the guard reminded the scythe demon about the poison dwelling inside him. If a stand-in doesn't consume the neutralizer in time, he will die painfully as blood comes out of his orifices. But just as he was about to ask for his release, Go-chan's face was grabbed by the demon boy. The guard asked Jong, who has forgotten about his condition, what he was doing as he bit his index. The slaughtering scythe demon poured a drop of his blood into the guard's mouth. Go-chan started to suffocate and was shocked to discover that the blood of the demon was poisonous. While the guard focused on circulating his inner energy to throw the poison out of his body, the past herbalist explained that he tried different types of poison while working with his grandfather. As he kicked the poisoned guard, the demon explained that his poisonous blood was the result of his past lifestyle. Jong was able to identify the herbs inside a mixture just by its smell and taste, and also claimed that he's immune to most poisons. With a devilish smile, the maniac confessed that he had no need for the neutralizer. After his face returned to normal, he decided to ask Go-chan about the mock sword manor. Since Jong was the only one able to cure his blood poison, the scared guard had no choice but to cooperate with what he thinks is a demon. It was a bright day in the mock manor main hall. A man lying in bed was coughing in the manor master's room. Mock Indon, the current manor master, was sick in bed. The doctor treating the man was starting to get desperate. Worried about his master, the man summoned was powerless to find the cause of his sickness despite summoning all his knowledge and experience and using many herbs. The doctor thinks that it would have been wiser to choose a successor early on. Since the master didn't choose one of his 4 sons as his successor before getting sick, the manor is plunged in an atmosphere of serenity before chaos. The 4 sons will get bloody in order to acquire their father's position if he ever went to the other side. According to the doctor, the first wife of Indon was very fond of the first son and would deploy unknown means to assure him her husband's succession. The presence of Lady Seok, the first wife of Mock Indon, who came to check on her husband, startled the old doctor. As the servant greeted the lady, she asked him again about the master's condition. The doctor apologized to the first wife, stating that he lacks the knowledge to cure her husband from the unknown disease, just as she expected. Seeing how powerless medicine is, the first wife decided to resort to shamanistic arts, which shocked the doctor. The old man warned her that shaman practices are just foolery that shouldn't be resorted to. But Lady Seov interrupted him, stating that she won't let the manor master die without even trying, so the doctor tried to defend himself. As the servants were getting the doctor out of the room, the first wife informed him that they no longer needed his services, since she already has called a shaman and her mind was set. Lady Seok ordered her servants to not let anyone enter the main hall so the shaman can focus on curing her husband. With a macabre tone, the first wife insisted on not letting anyone in. Just like that, the poisoned guard made a resumed report of the manor's state to the fake son. Jong took some time to think about the situation. The scythe demon asked Go-chan if they were good to go, so the curious guard asked for the destination, which was obvious to the demon boy. The fake master looked outside of the window. Jong had decided to visit the manor master. The imposter and the guard were now outside. Jong guessed that Mok Daeongwoon and Cam would use him as a stand-in and provoke the first son Mok Yongho so they can both fight to the death, which Go-chan confirmed. This plan was the best possible option. Mok Yongho was a 20-year-old distinguished by the birthmark on his left cheek and love for alcohol and women, which led the cruel, greedy, least favorite Mok to visit the tavern almost daily. The second son was a clever 18-year-old named Unpyeong with sharp eyes that looked like his mother and would use any means to secure himself as the heir of the lord. The plan was to make the second son kill the imposter and then wait for the first to stab him in the back, which would lead the 2 older brothers to engage in a fight to the death. This strategy was known as the winning by default plan. In the end, it wouldn't matter who won the duel, since he would be eliminated as an heir for killing his brother, making the real Mok Daeongwoon the best option for becoming lord of the house. The plan of the third young master was perfect until the scythe demon unexpectedly eliminated him. Go-chan asked the fake master for the reason behind visiting Indon, to which he replied by stating that the man's condition would immediately start his and the brother's bloodshed. Worried, the young guard warned Jong about his master. But the demon boy indirectly threatened the guard by asking him to keep the visit a secret, which terrified him. Lady Seok was standing outside the inner hall of the manor. An old man was approaching the first wife and the building's entrance. the mysterious sage asked to see the manor master. This old man was known as the shaman Meo Shin. Lady Siak decided to accord him one chance based on all the good she heard about him. The shaman thanked her, stating that the master should be treated immediately and to prevent misfortune everyone nearby should leave, which the lady already did, only keeping the guards. Meo Shin claimed that Lady Siak should leave. As he entered, the first wife reminded the old man of their secret deal. Meo Shin was tasked to sneak out the secret manual and the manor master's seal. The first wife will reward the old man with 300 silver coins when he retrieves the requested items, which he thanked her for. After that, the lady dismissed everyone present at the scene. At first, the first wife didn't plan to resort to the odd shamanism. Suddenly, the lady's attention was captivated. Mak Yuchen caught the eyes of the lord's wife. The fourth son, Mak Yuchen, was the child of a geisha. Lady Siak could forgive an affair with an artist, but not giving her illegitimate son the position of lord of the house. With that, the first lady went on her way. The fake Mak was intrigued, and the guard arrived just as the lady left. Jong noticed the boy's presence. Go-chan explained that this is Yuchen, the youngest son of the manor master, who seemed to be practicing his martial arts. Mak Yuchen was the favored brother for the succession due to the behavior he took from his father and his combination of hard work and exceptional talent in martial arts. Curious, Jong asked if the position of the youngest was a real training, so Go-chan explained that he was strengthening his lower body, the base of martial arts, with horse steps. The fake master understood the point and decided to ask the disciple of guard Cam. Go-chan was shocked to hear the boy asking him if he would be able to take his master down by learning martial arts. Jong asked his question once again. The young guard was stunned since the one who he started to consider a genius discovered his master's plan, but something was on the man's mind. Go-chan explained to the fake master that martial arts is based on internal training, which piqued the kid's curiosity. An example of internal training was respiration using Tugunaxin to clear the nearby nature's energy and gather Kai to become stronger. But since Kai can't be stacked in one day even after learning the noble arts, it will be difficult to beat the first-class Cam with his accumulated Kai and excellent techniques. The fake master claims that killing him early would be impossible, which his disciple confirms. A smug look was drawn on the guard's face as he thinks of how the Scythe demon would never be able to defeat guard Cam. One can only start internal training in a short period of time between 5 and 9, or else negative energy begins to stack, which would result in a difficult mastery of Kai. Guard Go-chan assumed that the young man could never use Kai. A discreet smile was seen on his face as he mocked his young master, who will pointlessly try to gather Kai. Suddenly, the murderous eyes of the creep turned emotionless, which alarmed the man. As he observed the man's pupil, Jong confessed how much he wanted to pierce his greedy eyes. The smile returned to the boy's face as he asked the young guard to become his person. The shocked Go-chan accepted the offer of his new master. Jong thinks that he is unlikely able to finish off his enemy Cam, and making him into an ally is also difficult due to the lack of trust. Go-chan stated that they should leave early, which intrigued the fake young master. According to the guard, the fourth son hated the third, so the Scythe demon asked for the reason behind this hatred. Go-chan claims that Jaehyun insulted Yuchen's mother, which led to the fourth beating up the third, which made the fake master smile. Jong burst out in laughter and claimed that the youngest son was a kind soul for not ripping his older brother's limbs. Guard Go-chan then asked his new master to leave now without causing unwanted problems, which he agreed to. The young Yuchen was only concentrated on his painful training. It was now sunset. It was calm inside the manor's inner hall. Red strings with silver coins were attached all across the room. The old shaman attached the red web to the manor master's 4 limbs. A bad energy was dwelling inside the nobleman's chest. Meo Shin stated that this addiction turned out to be enough murderous intent to kill a normal person, proving that the manor master was a true martial artist. Since the murderous energy dwelled inside him for too long, he had one chance out of 2 of surviving. But the shaman didn't care about the outcome of his exorcism and focused on the task given to him by the first wife. Meo Shin was holding a brush covered in red ink. The shaman started his incantation as he was getting ready to write on the paper. The old man continued to recite the spell as he finished creating the paper talisman. Meo Shin then threw the magic item towards the curse while reciting the spell. The talisman landed on the core of the murderous energy. Suddenly, a light started to come out of the paper. With a hand sign, the sorcerer focused on banning the evil from the manor master's mind. Meo Shin had to intensify the spell since the master didn't show any progress. The shaman concentrated on his magic words and mudras. The man was shocked to only see a small part of the murderous energy coming out of the cursed one, realizing that the dark energy inside him was too strong. Meo Shin changed the mudras, casting the enlightenment prayer. Suddenly, the manor master's eyes were shining red as he grunted in pain, and the old one continued with his prayers. Suddenly, one of the red strings was broken. The old man panicked and wondered if the lady or anybody else entered the room, since they shouldn't be bothered at this part of the ritual. A blast of murderous energy coming from the cursed one blasted the old man away. The shaman fell on someone's legs. Meo Shin was startled about these sudden presences while the guard asked for an explanation. Go-chan was shocked to see the head of the family in this state, so the old man denied that he knew his identity as Jong decided to get closer. Suddenly, the slaughtering demon scythe joined his hands in order to greet someone with a smile. The shaman was shocked to meet the fake third master in front of his agonizing father. With a smile on his face, the demon boy politely greeted the father of the man he murdered. A loud voice was chasing someone away. Mayo Shin stated that nobody, even the master's son, should enter the room on the first wife's order, which pissed Go-chan, who asked the man for his right to chase them away. The old man trying to kick them out claimed that the illness will be worsened by the murderous energy that he failed to contain, which opened the guard's eyes to Mayo Shin being an alchemist. The shaman started to beg the two men to get out of the room, fearing the worst. The chaos was suddenly stopped by the manor master's swallowing sound. Jong and Go-chan were intrigued while the alchemist was terrified at the sight of the ill man drooling. The unknown sickness made the manor master's eyes red, and he screamed in pain. As the charm on his chest disappeared, the murderous energy started to spread into his levitating body, taking control of it. The panicked shaman ordered the two intruders to restrain the cursed master in order to keep the red web intact. The evil energy was quickly submerging the mock head as time passed by. As Jong and Go-chan held the possessed one, the old man used his talisman on the man's forehead to overpower the evil spirit by consuming its energy and curing the sickness. The evil within the manor master began to fight the incantation, tearing the man apart. Suddenly, the ill man grabbed the guard's hand. In a flash, the martial artist twisted Go-chan's arm. The poor man screamed his pain out. The old shaman claimed that the curse increased the man's physical strength as he made one of the pillars of the red web fall to the ground. Mayo Shin warned the two men to be careful since the murderous energy could pass from a host to another. Go-chan was terrified by the warning, but just as he was about to blame the illness, it began to crawl from the lord of the house's hand. The guard was terrorized as the evil spirit was a few inches from his stuck arm. But just as the unknown illness was about to be transferred to guard cam's student, Jong appeared from behind with a sword in hand. In an unexpected move, the fake son cut off the manor master's arm. The guard and the shaman couldn't believe what the calm-headed boy just did. While the others were still in shock, the demon noticed that the curse tried to crawl back inside its original host. The situation was quite enjoyable for the slaughtering scythe demon. Jong then amputated his fake father's arm before the curse could return. Go-chan was terrified by the demon maniac who cut off the lord of the house's limb. The cursed body part was now agitated on the ground. Mayo Shin quickly put a charm on the infected arm. As the guard did his best to stop the manor master's bleeding, the shaman was thinking about this chaotic situation. The alchemist decided to escape before being held responsible since he failed to retrieve the desired objects of the freshly amputated head of the house. Just as he was thinking of doing the lease and leaving, a blade suddenly appeared close to his neck. The shaman started to panic and asked the young master for an explanation. Jong shushed the confused Go-chan as he was about to speak. The fake son asked if the evil spirit was the reason behind his father's illness, so the old man pointed out the obvious, stating that the manor master might not be out of danger yet. The shaman affirmed that Jong shouldn't waste his time unless he also wanted the death of the martial artist. Mayo Shin realized he messed up when the boy noticed the word "also" that slipped from his mouth. The demon boy asked the old man who wishes for the manor master's death. Jong asked the shaman if his employer was the one who didn't care about the master's life, but the old man tried to deny it. As the sword approached Mayo Shin's neck, the fake young master claimed that the truth is the only way for the shaman to escape death. The old man finally confessed that it was Lady Seok who didn't care about her husband's survival. Go-chan was shocked to hear that the first wife wanted to steal the secret manual and the manor master's seal, while Jong wondered about the nature of these items. The guard couldn't believe that Lady Seok went that far and thought that the first son would have been secured as the successor of the head of the house if they didn't barge in. Go-chan implied to his master that they must aid his fake father. As he thought about stopping the ascension of the first son to the head of the family, he claimed that the first wife will terminate the demon boy if her husband dies. As the young master agreed with the guard since he sabotaged the lady's plan, the scarred shaman claimed that he will help the manor master whatever it takes. But Jong disagreed and told the old man to proceed, which confused him. The demon boy decided to let Mayo Shin locate the secret manual and the manor master's seal. Both the guard and the old man were shocked at the young master's decision. Mayo Shin warned the impostor that it might cost the manor master his life, but he didn't care, while Go-chan thought that he was a madman and wondered about his scheme. The room has now gone quiet. The old shaman was using the remains of the red web to attach the cursed arm to a wooden doll. Jong asked about the function of the charmed doll. Mayo Shin explained that this doll was a fake vessel to deceive the evil spirit into thinking that it's the manor master who could die by interacting with the murderous energy once again. The old shaman decided to start chanting a spell. As the old man continued the incantation, the evil spirit began to climb the red string. Suddenly, a demonic hand came out of the severed arm and grabbed the fake vessel. The lord of the house's eyes began to glow blue as he let out an enormous scream. Both the young master and his person couldn't believe their eyes. As the old man continued the spell, the demonic hand started to crush the wooden doll, which was a bad sign. The shaman thought of how strong the murderous energy was and that any further attempts would result in the evil spirit roaming free. The man wondered how he would resolve the problem since the one with the sword would surely not cooperate. Suddenly, Myo-shin figured a way out. A discreet evil smile could be seen on the alchemist's face. The old man claimed that he would exorcise the evil spirit, but the guard shouldn't be there. Go-chan decided to leave since his presence was weird in the room. After the young guard left the room, the old man decided to begin the ritual. This time, the shaman put all of his energy to make the spell work. Suddenly, the evil astral entity began to speak to the two men by using the manor master. Myo-shin was overjoyed by the ritual's result and ordered the entity to answer his questions, which intrigued the monster. The old shaman used the power of the ritual to make the evil spirit reveal a hiding spot of the secret manual and master's seal, which he tried to resist. Despite his effort, the evil astral entity ended up revealing that they were past the front stone door underground in the medicine hall. Now both the maniac and the old man were aware of the location of the precious items. The magical charm was getting separated from the wooden doll. Myo-shin was alarmed by the evil spirit's hand crushing the fake vessel. The old man ordered the young master to cut the red string immediately. Jong should hurry since the evil spirit was climbing the wire in order to reconquer the manor master's body. In a flash, the demon boy cut the red string. Suddenly, the evil hands began to grab the fake young master's feet. Jong was confused as the evil spirit started to climb his body. The demon looked with surprise at the old shaman. An evil smile was drawn on Myo-shin's face as the spirit completely covered the one with the sword. Jong was completely swallowed by the evil astral entity. As he placed a charm on the young boy, the old man thought of how it was an evil spirit with murderous intent from the start. Since the spirit was going to escape at any minute, the shaman considered himself lucky to use the demon boy as a vessel. Myo-shin was able to retrieve the targeted items and get rid of the third master who planned to make him responsible for the disasters. The young boy was unconscious and unable to move. The angry evil spirit turned out to be a gluey dark slime. Enraged, the murderous spirit decided to not forgive the one who tried to trap him in the wooden doll. The evil spirit assumed that his new vessel was the one who tricked him and was overjoyed by its youth. The fake mock was now going to be restrained forever in his own mind while the demonic astral entity took control of his youthful body instead of the old manor master. Jong was now in a peaceful, sunny place wearing his old clothes. The young man was in front of a calm water source. He recognized this place as the watering hole he used to stop by. It was a calm mountain. Our protagonist knew the place very well. The watering pit was engraved in the demon kid's memory since he always frequented it. Jong started to fill his bucket with water. This time the place felt pretty alien to the herbalist who had an odd sensation dwelling inside him. The young man felt as if he was unable to recall something. Suddenly, Jong was alarmed by the dark smoke that appeared behind the trees. The fire came from the direction of the boy's home. Jong left everything behind and rushed to his caretaker. The young man ran as fast as he could. He was praying for the old man's safety. The boy wished with all his might for the well-being of his relative. Finally, the young man arrived at the scene. Jong was left stunned at what he saw. The young boy rushed to his grandfather, who was ripped in half. Jong desperately tried to wake up a dead man. The young boy was in denial and wondered about the killer's identity. The slaughtering scythe demon couldn't accept the loss of his only family. At this moment, the young man realized what kind of person the old man was. Jong finally understood how much he loved his only family member. The demon spirit finally found it. After witnessing the sad young man, the demonic presence realized the desire lying at the bottom of his heart. The evil spirit decided to tamper with the memory. Black energy was getting stuck to the boy's head. As it reached his ears, he heard someone asking him about what he was doing. As the dark energy reached his eyes, Jong couldn't believe his ears. It was his beloved grandfather requesting his help. The old man told his grandson to hurry. This time, the boy had a hard time believing his own eyes. The dark energy completely submerged the young man's perception. Jong rushed to embrace his confused grandfather. The old man, who was about to fall, asked his grandson for the reason behind this sudden affection, which he couldn't explain. Tears of happiness filled the boy's eyes as he thought that he would always have his caretaker who somehow kept him alive until now. The evil astral entity laughed in the corner while the grandfather's illusion hugged the young man. The demon spirit was happy with what he'd done. Cherished memories of a lost lovely past were described as true happiness by the evil spirit. As Jong asked his grandfather for the reason he was named after the character of righteousness, the demonic astral entity was happy to see his trap closing. The demon was admiring his deception from up close. Suddenly, the slaughtering scythe demon looked into the evil spirit's location. The demon couldn't believe his own two eyes. Jong then grabbed the spiritual parasite by its face. The demon boy claimed that the demon made him recall an agonizing event while the evil spirit was still shocked by the boy spotting him. The host was irritated by the symbiote using the image of his deceased grandfather as he grunted in pain. According to the demon boy, the evil spirit failed to understand something. In order to fulfill his desire for happiness and revenge, Jong should have seen something better than the old man back among the living. The maniac cracked a smile, claiming that the demonic spirit should have created an illusion where he tears his grandfather's killer apart, which would bring him joy and happiness. The demon spirit noticed that something was flowing inside the young one's consciousness. There was an evil disguise as a lustful desire for butchering that would even scare the spirits of the dead. The dark energy was now in the demon boy's hand. Jong was able to concentrate the demonic energy of the confused spirit in his body into his hand. The demonic astral entity couldn't believe that a being from the realm of the living could possess such a desire. Yet the evil spirit noticed that the killing lust was restrained by an unknown force. The boy's grandfather decided to answer his previous question about his name. The old man confessed that his grandson was named Jong because despite him being different from the others, he always wished for him to have a good righteous heart. Jong's caretaker claimed that he gave him this name to keep him on the good side as he continued to fade away. As the old man confessed his wish to see the young man growing into a righteous individual, the mask of the demonic spirit, agonizing in pain, was cracked. The demon spirit finally managed to free himself from the grip of the demon boy, running for his life. The spiritual intruder, who was chased by the one with the scythe, thought that he should retreat to the deep consciousness of his deranged chaser. Jong was still following the demonic spirit. As the evil spirit ran for his life, thinking that he just had to access his deep consciousness since he was already in the boy's body, the scythe demon started to become farther and farther. The evil spirit stepped on green grass. The sun was now shining on the evil spirit's broken mask. He was now in a flower field with one big door in it. The demonic astral presence was surprised to find a flower field inside the boy's consciousness. The evil spirit couldn't help but be intrigued by the mysterious door in the green field. Since a charm was sealing the red door, the demon theorized that the boy's memories were locked behind it and started to wonder why. But the evil spirit didn't mind it as long as he could open the door to access the core of the young man's consciousness. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed, which left the spiritual parasite confused. The demon was alarmed by the dark energy coming out of the flower field. Suddenly, dark energy bound the evil spirit's feet to the floor. The evil being couldn't believe that it was the host consuming the parasite. The demonic creature tried to fight as things took a bad turn for him. Jong was about to consume the scourged spirit. The evil astral entity was about to drown. It was now inside the boy's mouth. Just like that, it was the vessel who devoured its symbiote. Suddenly, Jong took back his consciousness. Mei was alarmed by the massive wave of dark energy emitted by the demon boy. The shaman couldn't believe his eyes. The fake young master just ripped the seal off his head. Dark energy was crawling out of Jong. The slaughtering scythe demon was now giving a demonic aura. A mysterious figure appeared behind the young master. Jong took a look at the entity behind him. The demonic monk had now appeared. A man outside the inner manor was questioning his decision. Jang Myongin was unsure of his actions. The man admired the manor master, admired the young monk Inden as a hero who doesn't commit mistakes. 19 years ago, the two men met when the manor lord helped Jang Myongin, who was a martial artist, defeat the pirates, and soon after he became Monk Inden's loyal inner manor master. Confused, the man looked into the sky. The inner manor master wondered how it has come to this. Jang remembered the first wife asking him his opinion on the son of the Jisha succeeding his father as the new head of the Mok Sword Manor. Lady Sixin claimed that in order to protect the family's future, the inner manor master must clear the surroundings of the inner hall until the shaman locates the desired objects. Jang allowed the shaman entry to help the Mok house but felt uneasy since he thought that the old man was a fake and that he and Lady Siak would use medicine to threaten the master. Finally, the inner manor master decided to act since the plan of the first wife went against his oath toward Mok Inden. The man decided to quickly check on the manor master. Meo Shin thought that this wasn't the regular vengeful spirit. The young boy just summoned a high-class evil spirit. Being was getting ready to order the demonic monk. The demon boy commanded the evil spirit to kill the old trickster. Meo Shin started to panic. In a flash, the shaman used the hand sign of comfort to block the demonic monk. The shaman was confused since the young master commanded an evil astral entity. Meo Shin thought that it was impossible to command a creature of pure malice like a vengeful spirit. The old man had a hard time repelling the evil attacking him. The malefic soul finally overpowered the old shaman. Meo Shin struggled to get back on his feet. The bloodthirsty demonic monk cracked a malefic smile. Scared, the old man tried to reach out for a blade. The shaman tried to repel a high-class evil spirit with a metal sword. The evil spirit threw himself at the old man. Meo Shin was scared for his life. Suddenly, multiple demon hands came out of the demonic monk's mouth and body. The hands of evil quickly grabbed the old man. Meo Shin begged the master of the evil spirit to spare his life in exchange for his loyalty. The third young master affirmed that he wouldn't spare the old man, who assumed it was due to his earlier trickery. But the demon boy affirmed that it wasn't the main reason. Meo Shin was surprised to learn that the demonic monk's master planned to get rid of him for knowing about the manor master's seal and the secret manual. As the old man heavily struggled to escape the evil spirit, he realized the plan of the young man. Just as the demonic monk consumed the shaman, the doomed man realized that being plotted to get rid of him. The young master asked the guard to enter the room. Just as he entered, Go Chan was shocked by what he saw. The great shaman Meo Shin was now nothing but a rotting corpse. The guard asked the master if the old man died. but the young one didn't answer and asked the guard to carry the body, which startled him. Suddenly, the demon boy started to swing his sword. Jong used his blade to wreck the manor master's room. The young man claimed that Mao Shin had gone mad and in his madness amputated the arm of Makinden. Go-chan was speechless when Jong revealed that they stopped the old man as they were passing by. The guard asked the demon boy if he plotted to lie, which he confirmed, and asked if there was an issue with the plan. Go-chan believed that the lie was legit but wondered if the others would believe it, especially Lady Seok, who would question them, so he claimed that it would make him look suspicious. Jong asked if his story wasn't gullible, so the guard stated that even if the shaman had truly gone mad, his employer would reject this idea. The demon boy started to think of a way to perfect his made-up story. Jong came up with a solution as he lifted his sword, which piqued Go-chan's curiosity. As he stabbed his own leg, the demon boy added to the story, saying that the madman amputated his father's arm and tried to terminate him. The guard was shocked by this action and plan. Jong threw the weapon away and asked the guard about his plan. The maniac asked his person if the story was now more gullible. The guard found the boy and his determination scary since he stabbed his own leg for a mere lie. When Go-chan asked the young master if he needed help with his wound, he denied it, stating that he should look pale to put on the act. Go-chan described him as horrifying. Just as the guard was thinking of how he didn't want to tangle with the scythe demon, someone entered the room. Go-chan was surprised to see the inner manor master. Jae was startled at the sight of the chaos inside the room. The inner manor master was greeted by the sight of his one-armed master and the dead shaman. The angry Jae assumed that this was the two men's fault. Go-chan and Mok Daeon-woon claimed that the appearances were against them. The third young master began to shiver as he asked Jae to check on his father. Suddenly, the young man collapsed on the ground. The inner manor master asked the guard why the third son was present in the room, which he had a hard time explaining. Go-chan noticed a smile on the collapsed boy's face. After seeing his master secretly smiling, the young guard was shocked to learn that his collapse was nothing but an act. It was now nighttime in the Mok Sword Manor Medicine Hall. Inside the building, a grand variety of medicinal herbs were present. Lots of different drawers could be seen. The smell of medicine made the protagonist feel at ease. As he remembered the direction to the seal in the manual, Jong felt fortunate to end up in the precious item's location. The demon boy would look for the manor master's possession late at night since the place was now too crowded. The injured Go-chan was now with his master. Jong claimed that his irritated person was late as he pulled something out of his attire. Go-chan handed the demon boy the two books that belonged to Mio Shin, just as he requested, and asked if these were the right ones. The guard claimed that it was difficult to steal these two books before they were burned, which piqued the young master's curiosity. To clear the crime scene of evidence, all of the old man's belongings were thrown into the fire. Jong was disappointed since only the first tom of the Anomaly and Master Chu's summary original book of the Yin-Yang School were the only ones that didn't disappear in the fire. The demon boy praised the young guard for his good work. Jong asked Go-chan what was with him, to which he responded by expressing his curiosity about the young master seeking these two shamanistic books. The scythe demon pointed at the window and asked the confused guard what he saw outside it. Go-chan took a good look outside. The guard claimed that he saw nothing outside the window where the giant demonic monk was. Jong affirmed that this was the problem he was trying to resolve, which left the young guard even more confused. Suddenly, a loud shouting caught the two men's attention. A voice behind the door affirmed to the lady that the third son was still injured, but she didn't care. The door was opened, revealing the first wife of the manor master. Lady Seok came to talk with the young master. Jong just stared at the woman blankly. Go-chan immediately greeted the first wife. Jong finally understood who the woman in front of him was. The angry lady was the first wife from the martial Seok clan. Guard Cam described her as the most interesting person, being intelligent and a first-rate martial artist from the Seok martial clan. As the young man greeted the first wife, he remembered the puppet master mentioning her as a bigger threat than the first son. The imposter apologized for greeting her while sitting due to his leg injury. Go-chan was surprised by the proper greeting and assumed that they would be safe if he could respond well to her interrogation. Jong was confused when the first lady affirmed that she wasn't here to receive his salutation. Suddenly, Lady Seok struck the third young master on his injured leg. Go-chan and Jong were surprised by this hostile and sudden move. The third young master's scream filled the room as he agonized in pain. But before his guard could react, a sword was positioned near his throat. Go-chan was speechless as the female swordsman that served the first lady held him at blade. Lady Seok was now sure of the young man's injury, claiming that it must be difficult for him. The clever first wife guessed that Jong purposely stabbed his own leg to solidify his bluff. Lady Seok claimed that the third young master gave a firm report to the inner manor master, but yet one detail failed to catch his attention. The first lady claimed that an experienced shaman like the late Myo Shin can't be possessed in a ceremony. Jong had to hear the first wife laugh at his story of a shaman gone mad. Suddenly, Lady Seok burst out in anger and struck the third young master for thinking that such a puny lie could fool her. The first wife's slap was so strong that the injured young man fell off the bed. Lady Seok said that she would only ask the third young master what he discovered in the manor master's room. The third young master just sat there with his injured leg. Unexpectedly, the demon boy started to smile. Out of nowhere, he started to giggle. The maniac then burst out in laughter. Seeing this, the first lady assumed that the third young master had gone mad. The maniac finally stopped his crazy laughter. Just like that, the slaughtering scythe demon pointed at his aggressor and summoned his demonic monk. Everyone was confused as the evil spirit phased through the first wife. The uneasy Lady Siak wondered what had just passed through her body. Jong's evil spirit was strangling the maid behind the first lady. The sight of the paranormal event made Lady Siak recall the state of Miyoshin's corpse. Without her noticing, the third young master snuck behind the first wife and asked her if she was seeking the secret manual and the master's seal. As the demonic monk strangled the poor maid, his master claimed that Lady Siak shouldn't have resorted to ultimatums but negotiation to get her hands on what she wanted. Lady Siak was shocked by the third young master's unexpected actions. As the injured young man got up, he claimed that he didn't seek his father's position despite what she believed. The first lady was alarmed when the maniac brought up the fact that the first son was rivaled when it came to the succession of the position of the manor master. With a crazed look in his eyes, the third young master affirmed to the surprised first wife that because of her actions he would give the precious items to the second son. But Lady Siak was triggered when the demon boy had brought up the son of the Jisha as a promising martial artist. Panic and rage filled the first wife's face when the third young master claimed that giving the secret manual to the fourth son was the best way for them to end their conflict. Jong made Lady Siak understand that he had the upper hand in this situation. Jong claimed that it was cold outside. The third young master asked the crumbled first wife to be wary of herself. A loud scream was heard from the blessing flower hall of Lady Siak's residence. The first wife threw a chair at the wall out of frustration. Lady Siak then took out her anger by brutally stomping on the furniture. The maid tried to calm her mistress down as she was exploding with rage at the third young master's boldness. But Lady Siak shouted that she didn't need to come back to her senses since a simple young man stole her hard work, which left the female swordsman in silence. The lady assumed that the boy was a simpleton who would tell her everything by terrifying him, which led her to act recklessly and wonder about him acting like someone else. Suddenly, an explanation struck her. Lady Siak concluded that the third young master had always been concealing his true abilities all along. The first wife then recalled how he was praised for his cleverness, but ever since the loss of his mother, her side of the family began to lose their impact. It's highly possible that the third young master concealed his true self as a way of self-defense. As Lady Siak regretted her reckless acts, her female swordsman claimed that she would kill the bold boy before he could make his move. The first wife denied the requests, saying the situation would worsen if the secret manual fell into other hands. The female swordsman asked to know her plan. Lady Siak declared that she would not submit to the demon boy's will. The first wife calmed down and thought for a moment. Lady Siak asked for surprise subordinate to inform the Phoenix Pavilion of the old shaman's death. The female swordsman was shocked to hear the name of the Phoenix Pavilion. The late old man was part of a shaman organization known as the Phoenix Pavilion. An evil smile was put on the mistress' face as she thought about how the outcome wouldn't go as the third young master pleases. It was now midnight in the medicine hall. Jong started to read about the dead turning into evil spirits because of unfulfilled revenge in Master Chu's summary original book of the Yin-Yang School. According to the manuscript, the power of the said spirit is determined by many conditions. The impostor approached the book towards the light. There is the weak red spirit chained to a location and can only cause goosebumps, the orange spirit that can harm the body of its host, and the yellow, which was the lethal type to be purged. Suddenly, the evil spirit came back to the side of his master. Jong assumed that his demonic monk was the third type of spirit as he asked him if he located what they seek. The demon boy was informed that the door was hidden by the rarely used weathered leaves by the spirit, who appeared to be great for scouting and locating the doors of the underground. But the demonic monk had to go for the maid since her mistress was immune to his evil power. Jong recalls the powers of the evil spirit worked perfectly on Go-chan as he opened the drawer. Suddenly, a secret path opened from behind the drawers. Since the first wife was also a first-rate martial artist, the demon boy deduced that guard Cam would also be unaffected by the evil spirit's powers being from the same caliber. An idea struck the imposter as he opened the shamanic book. Jong decided to take control of one of the decades-old diabolical green spirits who could bend their environment to their will and create mirages. The extremely dangerous green spirits were to be immediately eradicated. The young man made up his mind. With that said, the scythe demon decided to enter the secret path and go seek the secret manual and the manor master's seal. The young boy began to descend the stairs. The stairs were going long underground. Jong wondered if this deep tunnel's only purpose was to hide the manor master's seal and secret book. The demon boy judged that it wouldn't hurt to possess the precious items wanted by everyone. Since the powers of his evil spirit couldn't hurt his puppet master, the stand-in had to find other ways to fight him. Jong seemed to have reached the end of the stairs. The young man found himself at the entrance of a giant dark cave. Jong saw there the 4 stone doors just as described by the possessed master. The desired objects were behind the 4th one. The demon boy opened the stone door. Jong claimed that he must dive deeper into the cave. The fake third son wondered if all of this was crucial to hide the desired objects. Suddenly, the wandering young man stepped on a stone, activating a trap. An unexpected giant boulder with a chain was about to fall on the head of the protagonist. At the last moment, the demon boy dodged the giant rock from the booby trap. Jong didn't anticipate the place to be filled with traps. The fake mock son was confused to see 3 distant lights coming his way. The 3 lights turned out to be arrows that the young master evaded at the last minute. Jong started to use his lanterns to repel the upcoming arrow traps. An arrow came close to piercing the young man's heart. As the arrow struck an object, a light came out of it. Jong easily blocked the final arrow using the lantern in his hand. Things started to get serious for the demon boy when a giant log was swung his way. Jong wondered if the secret manual was worth being guarded underground with traps as he evaded the giant wooden log. But he also pictured another possibility. Something other than the secret manual was hidden here. Jong assumed that an artifact more precious was in this cave. Suddenly, an amazing number of giant weapons came flying towards the book seeker. As he evaded them, the fake young master looked forward to what he would discover at the end of the cave. Jong safely landed on the ground. The demon boy successfully evaded all the traps without suffering a single scratch. The young man was somewhat surprised by what he saw. Jong was now in an unexpectedly symmetrical place built with wood inside the cave. All the pillars were freshly scratched. Water with books, a candle, and a plate could be seen inside the mysterious place. From the looks of it, the young man wondered if someone trained down here. The young man decided to focus on the purpose of his visit as he headed to the center of the room. The adventurer found a wooden box in the center of the wooden place. Jong discovered the secret manual. Inside the box, there was a book called Woodheart Sword Transformation Technique and another titled Adamant Resolve. Jong recalled Go-chan telling him that the secret manual was divided into one about sword technique and another containing cultivation techniques. The 2 books were stolen by the demon boy. As he turned his head, the 3rd young master grew suspicious of the giant wooden place made only to guard the secret manual. The young boy spotted a giant square stone in the corner of the room. The stone looked useless and ridiculously heavy. From the traces on the floor, he could tell that the stone was pushed there. Jong decided to move the stone since it might be concealing something. The demon boy's suspicions were confirmed. Something was sealed under the floor. Jong decided to open the trap door. The fake young master discovered a wooden chest. Charms were also used to lock the wooden box. Even the scythe demon thought that the wooden chest possessed a scary aura. The 3rd young master began to remove the talismans as he thought of how much more guarded it was than the secret manual. Suddenly, the light of the lantern faded away as the young man opened the mysterious wooden chest. Just as he was about to start wondering about the flame of the lantern, something caught the boy's amazement. The 3rd young master just stood there and contemplated the inside of the wooden box containing an ordinary book with a leather cover. As he observed his new find, he claimed that the book made of human flesh had a bad smell and texture. A crazed smile was put on the face of this maniac. The slaughtering scythe demon had obtained an evil humanoid leather book. The drums were being played loudly. It was a party with the 2nd son of the mock sword manor where the drummers decided to bring out the people's joy. Mangacap was enjoying himself at the festivities. The 2nd young master was overjoyed tonight and saw the inner hall as a brighter place this night. Mangacap thought that this was all due to him becoming closer to the position of manor master. According to the 2nd young master, this is all due to someone who decided to aid him. The mysterious person was none other than Guard Cam. With a macabre smile, the puppet master greeted the 2nd son. Someone apologized to someone for bringing him in late. The 2nd young master declared that due to his father's condition, he wasn't able to prepare a better welcoming feast for the man, yet he affirmed that he was still honored by the thought. With that, the 2nd son invited Guard Cam inside, which he humbly accepted. It was getting late. The tired musicians were leaving the residence of the 2nd son. Mangacap was surprised to hear that Mok Gyeongwon lost his martial art knowledge. Since the real Mok Gyeongwon was now a corpse and his doppelganger took his place, Guard Cam wasn't actually lying. Since the publication of his failure to protect the 3rd young master would put his head on the line, the traitor decided to hide the existence of the imposter, which explains his cooperation. Guard Cam confirmed the 2nd son's suspicions, thinking that the fake won't have the last word. The traitor affirmed that the imposter of the 3rd is currently unable to use martial arts as he thinks of decapitating him as a symbol of his loyalty to his older brother. Mangacap was overjoyed by his brother's inability to use martial arts and called his brother an imbecile who surely lost his right to become the manor master. The 2nd son then laughed, expressing his gratitude for Guard Cam, who recently joined his side. The old guard was alarmed when his new master mentioned how he isn't willing to uncover the reason behind the 3rd young master's disability when it comes to martial arts. Mangacap claimed that he would grant the guard forgiveness no matter the reason since all mistakes are human. Knowing that the 2nd son would put him under his boot as soon as he knew the reason, Guard Cam apologized to him, stating that the reason must currently stay hidden. Guard Cam affirmed to the 2nd son that his ignorance would not harm him, and since he trusted him, the 2nd son turned a blind eye. Mangacap called the man a former assassin of the infamous palace. Guard Cam was terribly shocked to be called such by the young master. The second son, whom the guard had only ever seen as a clever child, noticed how he started to feel uneasy. With a smug look, Mangacap got close to the guard, asking if this information was classified, which led him to think that he had researched his past. As he denied it being a secret, the former assassin thought of how he got reckless with his new master. Mangacap was satisfied with this reaction. The second young master dismissed his new ally, stating that he would be called when needed. As guard Cam left the residence, the young man observed him through the window. Mangacap claimed that the traitor had a secret, which led him to believe that his younger brother had a plan in mind. Cho Il-sung, who was close to early peak, was tasked with uncovering the third young master's secret and confirming his disability regarding martial arts. The henchman asked his master if he should only go for reconnaissance. The second young master claimed that it would be better if he got rough. Cho Il-sung gladly agreed to his master's command. Meanwhile, in the underground wooden temple, Jong could actually feel a heartbeat emitting from the flesh book. Yet despite feeling a lively beat, the imposter could feel something contrary. Whatever was between his fingers was not too far from its grave. The scythe demon was astonished and wondered about the reason behind the presence of the demonic book. The young man's curiosity was about to get the best of him as he was about to open the evil book and read it. Suddenly, an evil presence filled the place. The demonic monk had returned. Jong asked him the reason for his presence. The evil spirit felt alarmed at what he had seen. The devilish astral entity bowed as a sign of obedience and submission. Jong couldn't believe his eyes. The demonic monk was acting as if he was scared. The maniac immediately guessed how powerful the devilish book was. However, the boy quickly places the book back into the box where it was while thinking that if the demon monk was there, someone must be nearby. Looking up, Mok realizes that this means there is an intruder present. Here being silent, focusing on sensing the presence of something. We then return outside the palace, where we see a beautiful full moon illuminating the entire area. The young man sent by the second son was jumping across the rooftops. Upon reaching a tree, he notices something strange. Cho Il-sung sees the guard Go-chan, for some reason standing there at this time of night. The spy wonders why that young man was standing guard instead of protecting the injured young master. Cho moves between the rooftops, wondering if there was really something those people were hiding. He makes his way to our protagonist's room, but upon looking through the window, he sees the boy peacefully taking his night's nap. The spy immediately enters the place, questioning why the guard Go-chan was standing watch outside when it wasn't necessary. Il-sung tells himself that he needed to check Gyeong-woon's internal energy, but then notices something on a small table. The intruder sees that on the tea table, there was one of the books hidden by the mansion's master. Cho starts flipping through it, telling himself that this was very precious. He wonders how the young master had it, but quickly thinks that it wasn't important, as this was all they needed to gain an advantage in the succession. Finally, the young man comments that they are going to win, but he doesn't realize that behind him, Gyeong-woon is there. Our protagonist grabs the back of his opponent's neck and shortly after smashes his head against the tea table. The psychopath asks the spy what he was doing in the room. Without mercy, he repeatedly slams the spy's head against the table and states that he's going to put the boy to sleep because he is a kind man. As his head is smashed multiple times against the object, the only thing the second son's envoy can think is that this boy is insane. After a free massage session, we see that the spy is upside down. When he wakes up, Il-sung sees in front of him the third son of the mansion's master, who is happy that his enemy is awake. Tied by his feet, the only thing the man can wonder is where he is. However, without giving him a chance to speak, the first thing Gyeong-woon does is pull out a knife and slam it against the ground. Shortly after, with a psychopathic expression, he mentions that at this moment he is going to have a little chat with the spy. Before that happens, we see the moment when Mok finishes knocking Il-sung out, leaving him on the floor completely wounded. The one who arrives there is the guard Go, and upon seeing his servant's reaction, the protagonist asks if the young man knew who that person was, and Chan quickly explains everything. After hearing that Cho came on the orders of the second son, Gyeong-woon becomes extremely confused and questions why that man was there. Go replies that he wasn't sure, but considering that Cho was wearing a mask, he must have been there to collect information. Mok throws the young man over his shoulder and tells his subordinate that he is going to make the spy confess everything. Upon hearing this, Chan tries to stop the boy, commenting that he couldn't torture that young man and that it would be better to just let him go. He also mentions that the second son is famous for being overprotective of his subordinates, and even hearing this, Mok only replies that he will think about it. Just that. Shortly after, he leaves carrying the unconscious young man, and despite this, Chan tries to stop him, but the young master does not listen. Tired of the situation, he turns around, looking up, and thinks that he doesn't care anymore. The young man just hopes his young master doesn't kill Il-sung, because despite being careless, the protagonist is quite strategic. However, upon thinking further about it, Chan realizes just how crazy that young man is, and for that reason, he realizes that the young master will probably kill him. Back to the present moment, Il-sung is hanging upside down, asking the young master to untie him. Confused, Gyeong-woon asks why he would untie his enemy. Ilsung explains that he was there under orders from the second son of the master and Jaehyung-won would not survive if he continued doing this. Cho, even in his current position, asked our protagonist not to make things more irritating and that he should just hand over the secret manual. Mok suddenly lets out a small laugh and comments that this is funny. He tells the spy that he has now confirmed it is truly true that his brother values his subordinates, as one of them is acting as if he has the upper hand even in this situation. The young man stands up and comments that he would untie Ilsung, and the arrogant boy affirms that this was a good decision. Cho, grateful, comments that he will convince the second young master to forget about this, but something happens to him. Suddenly, one of the fingers on his hand simply disappears. With a psychopathic expression and holding it in his hand, our protagonist asks Ilsung if he knows whose finger that was. Ilsung is extremely confused as his finger has just disappeared and yet he didn't feel anything. Moreover, he couldn't move or sense his energy. Without knowing what Cho was thinking, Jaehyung-won reveals that he used a paralyzing poison on the spy. The boy explains that he made it with herbs from the medicinal hall, and the young man won't be able to feel anything from the neck down for a few hours. While raising the knife, Mok states that if Choba doesn't answer his questions right away, they'll cut off one of his fingers per second. Finally, he begins the interrogation, and as the first question, Mok asks what was the reason his brother sent Cho there. With a terrifying expression, he demands that his enemies start speaking immediately. For taking too long to answer the question, once again, Mok gently disconnects one of Cho's fingers. Seeing that the spy wasn't going to answer, the boy continues and begins counting, already reaching number 2 and doing it once more. The spy starts screaming in despair, trying to make his enemies stop, but the boy was cruel and is already heading for number 3. At number 4, the only thing Ilsung could scream was for his enemy to stop immediately because he couldn't bear it any longer. He continues to beg for mercy, and at that moment, after stopping at 4, our protagonist states that the next one would be his opponent's thumb. Seeing that his hand was practically gone, the spy decides to open his mouth and reveal everything. Ilsung says that the young master Eunpyeong sent him there to personally check if the third son of the mansion's master had lost his martial arts. Even after saying that, Cho is extremely worried about the situation, and because of the stress, even his breathing becomes extremely heavy. Upon hearing that, Mok is extremely confused by this talk, but the young man finally understands the situation and states that the guard had really switched sides quickly. Then he moves on to the next question, and since Mok was clever, he asks if the one who said that had been guard Cam. Not wanting to lose any more fingers, Ilsung quickly answers yes, and upon hearing this, Jaehyung-won responds that Cam was pretty smart with that. In his mind, Cho couldn't believe that the third young master had already concluded that Cam had betrayed him just from that, and our protagonist stands up and tells the spy that he has no more questions to ask. Looking at Ilsung, Mok wonders what he should do with that piece of flesh. Facing that terrifying pressure, the only thing Cho can think is that he's going to die. As his only way out, he catches Jaehyung-won by surprise, stating that he would swear loyalty to the boy. The spy says that he didn't know the young master was so clever, and that he was the perfect candidate to be a mansion's master. He continues to swear his loyalty and states that he will even risk his life for Mok, and seeing this as an opportunity, the young man accepts. The boy then says that there was something Cho could do to prove his loyalty. Then the young man asks if he could make a request to Ilsung. Thinking he was saved, Cho becomes happy and shouts that he will follow any order from his master. However, without any mercy, the boy uses his knife and ends up striking a vital point of his opponent, making ketchup gush out. Ilsung, with blood starting to groan in pain, and while smiling, Jaehyung-won says that since his servant was willing to risk his life, he wanted to borrow some blood, so without remorse, the young man ends the poor life of that spy. In his final moment, the only thing Cho thinks is who on earth would have thought this would be how he would risk his life. Mok goes to the previous box and grabs that frightening book again while stating that he couldn't open that rosary by force. That's why he thinks it is the seal mentioned in the original book of the Yin and Yang school, and according to the book, a seal of something evil is full of pure ki. So spilling something impure on it will weaken its powers, and that's why he uses Cho's ketchup, who died in an undeserved and pitiful way. He uses it to pour on the book, and after that, the impurity is complete. At that moment, our protagonist stands up, remaining motionless for a while. The rosaries that were sealing the terrifying object begin to break and then shatter. Jaehyung-won, just staring at it, wonders what is going to come out of there. However, something starts to happen, and all the ketchup inside the box begins to fly in different directions. A power takes hold of that cursed object, and that red liquid starts to surround the entire room, staining the place with blood. Seeing all this, Jaehyung-won is extremely confused, trying to understand what is happening. What was once blood begins to take shape, and finally, Mok understands what he has tampered with. The blood begins to turn into a humanoid figure, and soon, something terrifying starts to emerge from within that ketchup. This figure appears right in front of Jaehyung-won, who is left extremely confused by the situation. The young man, seeing some leftover drops of blood fall, is shocked by the scene unfolding before him. We then see that the curse from the book has formed a woman. That figure creates an entire area where the only thing visible is blood everywhere. The mysterious being starts walking towards Jaehyung-won, who remains utterly motionless. It is then revealed the appearance of a beautiful woman who didn't seem at all like a malevolent spirit. Still in shock from everything, the only thing our protagonist thinks is that this being is much stronger than a green spirit. He notes that this girl is a 5th level ghost as described in the original book of the Yin and Yang school. The blue spirit, a being that is barely comprehensible if it even truly exists. Looking at that being, Mach says that, to be honest, he was expecting a green spirit or something similar to appear, but this was something much greater. Suddenly, the blood around him begins to surround him, as if it is going to capture him. The being, after imprisoning our protagonist, utters her first word, calling the boy a foolish, sentient being. The woman starts pulling something from her hair and says that the boy should empty his spirit and offer his soul to her. In his mind, Jae-young-woon starts explaining about the 5th level of ghosts, the blue spirits. These beings are abominable spirits that have existed for centuries, and they have the power to greatly influence an area and can even cause suffering and induce hallucinations. The girl then, with what she took from her hair, starts smoking until she notices something next to her. She sees that Mach was still fighting and comments that the boy was very slow. Jae-young-woon, while trying to struggle, thinks he understands why the book said that, and he really sees firsthand that blue spirits are extremely dangerous. But this was actually interesting. The millennia-old being is deeply impressed by the attitude of this mortal and shows some confusion. Still struggling, the young man says that all ghosts, regardless of their level, simply want someone's body, and they are all so desperate for it. Mockingly, he tells the spirit that he believes she cannot do anything without a body, and the woman becomes intrigued by this. The young man, after breaking free from the ketchup prison, says that if the woman wants his body so much, she'll have to take it. She, without much effort, manages to land a blow by controlling that red liquid beneath his feet and hurling it at the boy. Without Mach even realizing it, part of his abdomen is ripped out. Seeing the boy's body fall to the ground, the woman scoffs at it and states that he was a very foolish mortal. The woman begins to prepare another move and comments that Mach is leaving her no choice. Once again, the majestic woman controls all the red liquid, launching a blow at the boy's face. This time, the blood manages to burn our protagonist's skin, leaving the boy terrified. Smiling, the woman asks if the boy finally understood that there was nothing he could do. Once more, she asks Mach to be a good boy and give her his body. However, before he could fall again, the young man manages to stand up, surprising the spirit once more. Even completely injured, the boy tries to stay on his feet. The woman cannot believe that this boy managed to hold on this long and even endure the pain of having his face destroyed, stating that the young man is not ordinary. This time, the liquid beneath the boy's feet starts to form and grab his ankle. Soon after, the blue-level spirit uses this to hurl Mach against one of the pillars that was there. The woman then comments that she will make an offer to the young man, and if he gives her his body, she will grant him one wish. Completely injured and out of options, the boy asks why the spirit was letting him have that. As she approaches the human, the only thing the woman says is that she was being kind and that it wasn't good for her if the boy's body was too damaged. Jae-young-woon nevertheless asks what would happen if he refused the offer. With a demonic expression, the woman states that she will kill the boy and look for another human. He questions if he would really get a wish, and the woman promptly agrees. Seeing the boy's determination, the spirit comments that he must have lived a hard life and wonders what happened to the young man because whatever it was, she would avenge him. Finally, she asks Mach to reveal his wish. But the boy brazenly responds that his wish is for the woman to shut up and become his familiar spirit. She then begins to create a whirlwind with all the ketchup in the place. Irritated, the woman says that it was our protagonist who chose that so he would get what he deserved. The woman uses all of her power while calling the boy a foolish immortal. All the blood that had accumulated in the place starts to move toward Jae-young-woon, who can only watch the scene, unable to do anything. The liquid hits him full force and starts to drown Mach. As he begins to be wounded by all the blows, the boy appears to lose consciousness. Seeing this, the blue spirit states that with this he will be hurt, his bones will be carved, and his limbs will be removed from his body. She comments that it's a shame the young man's body will be damaged, but it's necessary. Amidst that sea of blood, our protagonist is unable to react. The boy, in the midst of all that liquid, recognizes that taste. He notes that the flavor is redder than cherries, viscous and bitter like metal, and all his senses are telling him that this is blood. However, it's something completely different. Remembering the cruelties he committed, the boy wonders what the blood he drank tasted like. He recalls that this blood had the vibration of life, warmth, and vitality, and that was what it meant to be alive, but what he was feeling now was death. Then in the midst of it all, for some reason, Mach manages to wake up. Seeing this, the blue-level spirit is in complete shock, unable to understand the situation. Jae-young-woon finally realizes that all of this was an illusion and begins to break everything around him, as if the universe itself was cracking. The spirit and our protagonist are sent back to the place they were before everything happened. The woman is thrown against the wall, hitting her back and left in shock. A terrifying aura can be felt emanating from Jae-young-woon's body as he stands still in the center of that room. Seeing this, that completely intact boy, the demon states that this situation was utterly impossible. Desperate, the spirit creates a red butterfly that lands on her fingernails. The woman sends this small insect flying toward her opponent. The attack flies smoothly towards Gyeong-woon. However, upon hitting the boy, it seems he is not affected. Seeing this, the woman thinks and realizes that this is transcendence. Transcendence is a way to escape any illusion by getting rid of all 5 senses, and thinking about it, the spirit notes that it's easier said than done. Even so, for a first-level shaman, transcendence would be difficult, and this boy isn't even one. She then wonders if that boy was born with the qualities of a great shaman. Gyeong-woon, with all his psychopathy, begins laughing euphorically. The woman questions whether the boy was really using laughter in that situation, as he might have escaped the illusions, but he still had no advantage. However, the boy breaks the girl's train of thought and responds that he just had a funny idea. The blue spirit realizes what's happening and becomes frightened. It is then revealed that Mok has in his hand the book he used to summon that creature. According to Master Chu's summary in the original book of the Yin-Yang School, the older the spirit, the more likely it has a vessel that connects it to the human realm. In other words, that book must be the girl's vessel. Our protagonist, like the maniac he is, begins tearing the book's cover with his teeth, and with that, he manages to inflict damage on the girl. That demon starts screaming and howling in pain as her powers become unstable. With this, the only thing Mo can think is that he was finally right. Desperate, the woman calls the boy a cursed mortal and wonders how he was able to harm that book, as it is imbued with demonic Kai. She tries to attack the young man while thinking that it's because of the key that first-level shamans barely managed to seal the book after several attempts to destroy it, and yet that boy succeeded. Without hesitation, the demon lunges at Mok, grabbing him by the neck. The crazy spirit starts choking the boy, asking if this too is an illusion. She comments that she no longer needs the boy's body, only needs to kill him, and that he should blame his own foolishness for rejecting her kindness. With this reaction, Gyeong-woon remarks that it was strange because all she needed to do was steal a book from him. However, he explains that he already figured it out and states that the girl cannot touch that object. The young man begins to swallow the piece of the book cover he had bitten off, and the woman, seeing this, becomes even more enraged. She starts hitting him repeatedly, demanding that the boy spit it out immediately. While swallowing it and almost choking, the boy thinks that the blood that entered his body earlier has entered circulation and is harming him. And that feeling of his entire body being broken reminds him of the first time he ate a poisoned target, but what he feels most clearly now is the fury of the soul. A fury against someone as strong as him, and above all, a desire for revenge. Finally, Mok swallows the piece, awakening the full fury of the spirit. The woman begins screaming, calling the boy a foolish mortal. She tightens her grip on the young man's neck, who starts coughing up blood. However, the two look at each other and realize what is happening. Suddenly, our protagonist is teleported to a completely red place with a burning castle. Confused, the boy finds himself in the middle of a sea of corpses and wonders where he is. Then in front of him, he sees something strange. There is an altar with a person sitting on it, and that blonde woman is kneeling before them. Gyeong-woon sees the past form of the blue spirit, and the woman is practically kneeling with her sword in hand. The girl starts tying pieces of her clothing around the sword to grip it firmly. She then points the blade and says some words to the person in front of her. Seeing this scene, Mok thinks he couldn't hear what the woman was saying, but he could vividly feel her rage. In this memory, the woman continues pointing her sword at that unknown being while crying out of hatred. For some reason, the person had horns and white hair. The only thing this strange being does is give a slight smile, mocking his opponent. Then, the former form of the demonic spirit charges at that being, intending to end its life. However, the poor woman is easily stopped, her chest being wounded. The unknown being, without mercy, removes the woman's heart with extreme ease. The girl can only watch as her organ is pulled out of her body while groaning in pain. The half-human monster crushes the woman's heart, causing her to collapse backward, drained of strength. We then see that around this man, several people dressed as samurai were present. They begin approaching the already nearly lifeless woman to finish her off. All of them draw small daggers and begin an unpleasant stabbing session. Afterward, the only thing Mo can see are the few remnants left of that woman. Following this, the book that he obtained and used to summon her appeared as a result of that death. Suddenly, our protagonist awakens as if nothing had happened with a scream before him. The boy wonders what is happening and why there's a red thread on his chest. Suddenly, the demonic spirit drops her slender hat and becomes extremely frantic. She realizes that she has become a familiar spirit bound to Mok. The boy, on the other hand, is extremely pleased with this, realizing he had gained a blue spirit to use. After understanding what has happened, the woman grabs our protagonist by the neck and slams him violently against a pillar. However, she notices that the same pain she's inflicting on the boy is affecting her as well. The young woman storms off completely enraged, and seeing this, Gyeong-woon deduces that a familiar feels the same pain their master does. Nevertheless, he begins to wonder where his demon monk is, as he had essentially returned from the dead earlier. We then see that the monk is next to Chan, and both of them appear completely sad for some reason. Gyeong-woon tells the blonde woman that it seems they will be together from now on and asks why she doesn't introduce herself. The young man walks over to the girl, extending his hand and introducing himself, asking what he should call her. The woman remains silent, so Gyeong-woon says that if she won't tell him her name, he'll just have to call the spirit whatever he wants. He then calls the girl Red Dung Beal. but upon hearing that, the woman turns furious. Mok continues laughing at the young woman, who becomes extremely irritated at being mocked by a mere mortal. Gyeongwoo tries again, asking why she doesn't reveal her name if she didn't like that nickname, but she replies that she won't say her name. The boy then says that he really will have to call her whatever he wants, and since she was a blue spirit, he will call her as the book does, Blue Spirit, and the woman doesn't seem displeased by that. After revealing this, the only thing the girl does is turn away, and Gyeongwoo realizes that she had a huge ego, and that he couldn't just beat her into obedience or anything like that. So our protagonist decides that he will simply persuade the girl to like him slowly. Changing the subject, the boy shifts his attention to the book that was covered in human skin. He calls the girl by the nickname and asks if she knows what's in it, but she replies that she doesn't know anyone called Blue Spirit. After that, the woman comments that she doesn't know and that the boy shouldn't ask her anything. As our protagonist begins his reading, he notices that for some reason, everything is written in blood, and the boy is extremely impressed by it. However, he thinks that all the characters don't make sense together and wonders what it could mean. For some reason, the Blue Spirit just looks at the boy and laughs at him. Mok then realizes that the girl probably won't talk to him anytime soon, and he'll have to figure out the meaning by himself. After reading some of the letters, he begins to recite what he's reading, saying that without despair, one must trust the mind in another way. The boy continues reciting words that seem nonsensical, and noticing this, the spirit becomes desperate, fearing what might happen. For some reason, Jaeyoung-woon was performing some kind of ritual that begins to affect the woman's cigar. A purple energy starts swirling around Mok's body, leaving the blue spirit frightened. That energy swirls around our protagonist, who continues reciting the ritual. After saying something, the boy seems to complete part of the ritual, and for some reason, his hand fuses with that strange book. At this moment, the blue spirit screams that this is impossible and questions how the young man managed such a feat. He doesn't quite understand what the girl is saying and asks if what she's talking about has to do with the book being stuck to his hand. Suddenly, for some reason, Jaeyoung-woon feels something within his body, and since the woman is bound to the boy, she begins to feel it too. She then orders our protagonist to stop breathing immediately. The boy complies, emptying his mind as well, thinking of absolutely nothing, remaining in an almost lifeless state. The book that was stuck to Gyeong-woon's hand quickly detaches and falls to the ground. Seeing that the boy had completed the ritual in the blink of an eye, the woman is impressed. She realizes that the boy had already undone the binding ritual and wonders how this is possible for someone who hasn't even learned martial arts. The spirit also reflects that it's no miracle he even managed to perform the binding ritual. Looking at our protagonist, motionless, she comments that she is witnessing something she never experienced in her past life. Suddenly, the young man feels exhausted and sits down on the floor, thinking he was going to suffocate. The blonde woman explains that this happened because Mok couldn't control the binding ritual properly, as his breathing was off. The boy, realizing that his plan had worked, questions whether the girl is actually explaining things to him, and the woman gets irritated by this. She responds that she only did it to avoid suffering damage from the foolishness of our protagonist. Taking advantage of the situation, Jaeyoung-woon asks what this binding ritual is, and the woman replies that it's exactly what it seems to be, as it binds things to you and they stick. After a brief explanation about it, she asks the boy to test it on that body. Looking to the side, he realizes it's Ilson, the spy sent by his brother. The woman informs Mok that he should focus on linking to the core of the energy, but she explains that Ilsung's key was likely scattered, since the boy was lifeless. Tired, the woman asks if she really has to explain everything, and the boy, embarrassed, replies that yes, she does, since he knows nothing. After they position themselves, she instructs him to repeat what he had done before. Once again, the boy begins performing the ritual, but this time he has a sense of what is going to happen. Upon finishing, a purple energy starts emanating from Cho's lifeless body. The energy also circulates through our protagonist's body, surprising him. He thinks that warmth is traveling through his veins, reaching the palm of his hand and circulating around his energy core. Finally, the spirit adds that he should bind anything, even ki itself, to make it stick. The spirit asks if the boy is finally able to feel the true power of it, as this is how the binding ritual works. Feeling all that energy, our protagonist realizes that everything is surrounding his torso, and he finally understands that this is Kai, what Chan had mentioned. The boy recalls that, according to Chan, it takes a long time to gather Kai. However, this ability allows him to absorb it from others and gather ki much faster. In other words, our protagonist could become stronger in a short amount of time. Mok then attempts to touch the energy, but it quickly disperses. Frustrated, the spirit explains that this is how ki functions. Therefore, a specific and special method is necessary to gather energy. Without it, our protagonist won't be able to consolidate the Kai into his energy core. Finally, the woman adds that, in other words, collecting Kai through a binding ritual is impossible. Hearing this, Mok is disappointed, as he thought he had found a shortcut. The woman asks if he really believed becoming a martial arts expert was easy. However, she assures him that he shouldn't be too disappointed, as there are various uses for the binding ritual. The first ritual, the binding ritual, is nothing more than the basic of the 8 thought-breaking techniques but even this opens up countless possibilities. The one explains that while ki can scatter, it's still ki, and that doesn't change. She then asks Gyeongwon to try concentrating ki in his hand by circulating it. However, the boy doesn't understand what he should do, so the woman instructs him to visualize it. She explains that ki circulation and chants are just aids to help form the right image in his mind, and if he can do that, you should be able to send ki to his hand. In her mind, the blue spirit thinks that's what she said, but she's sure it will be impossible for Mok to do, as it makes no sense for a beginner to be capable of that. On the other hand, the boy begins performing the ritual, and that pink energy once again circulates in his palm. He manages to hold and concentrate it in his fist, leaving the blonde woman astonished. Gyeongwon uses this energy to punch a pillar, easily piercing through it. As he releases the ki toward the object, it breaks in two. The blue spirit is utterly incredulous, unable to believe that a beginner like Mok managed to achieve that. After completing this feat, our protagonist acts naturally, thinking that it was amazing. Meanwhile, the woman watches, questioning who this person really is. In her mind, she asserts that she's seen countless talented individuals in her life, but she's never encountered someone like Mok. Using his newfound power, the boy comments that this is why people appreciate martial arts, as it makes killing others much easier. Hearing this, the blonde thinks that the boy has grasped the essence of martial arts. Training the body and mind is pointless, and the main point is how easily one can kill. The boy brazenly asks what the second technique in the book is, and the woman prepares to explain. However, she quickly realizes his plan. Immediately afterward, the woman gets irritated, declaring that she almost got tricked by a mortal but won't do anything else cool for him. The blonde mutters to herself that she had already said far more than she should have because the boy just absorbed everything she said. She then tells our protagonist not to communicate with her anymore, leaving the boy annoyed. Trying to control his energy, he thinks that her lack of help will be unfortunate, as he really wanted to ask her something. Looking at his hand, Gyeongwon thinks about how the blue spirit had said that ki would disperse, but there was still a cold energy lingering in his palm. He glances over at the blue spirit and considers whether he should ask her, but then quickly dismisses the idea. He states that the girl probably won't answer his questions and just gives up on the notion. Our protagonist also comments that it's fun discovering things on his own and then asks the blue spirit to accompany him. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the early hours of the morning, we see someone walking under the moonlight. This person was the escort warrior of Lady Seok, who had just arrived at the Phoenix Pavilion. In front of the temple, she enters, opening the door and encountering various sculptures. She even sees some strange statues and other unknown objects. Inside, the woman stands before an enormous statue that seemed to stare deep into her eyes, emitting a strange aura. As she walks through the place, the girl wonders why this room was full of strange things. Suddenly, a flame ignites and the girl begins to speak, saying she was sure they were aware since she had sent a message informing them. Nevertheless, she delivers the news that the shaman Memyo Shin is dead and that he was murdered by the third son, young master Mok Gyeongwon. The statue doesn't seem to react, and Lady Seok's subordinate presents 300 silver coins with an apology. She announces that Lady Seok was offering an additional 400 if someone accepted another task, the task of eliminating the third young master. A silence falls over the room, but suddenly, the flame that had lit extinguishes. Realizing her message had been received, the girl bows, thanking whoever was there. Not wanting to remain near the statue, she quickly exits. She thinks that there definitely wasn't anyone there, so she wonders why it felt like someone was watching her. Inside the temple, the body of the shaman lay in front of the statue, but then we hear some noises. An unknown being states that they were certain it was a murder. Others arrive, agreeing since they had received information that a maid was seen floating in the air, which was the work of a yellow spirit. They are convinced that the third son was possessed by the spirit. Suddenly, a meeting of masked individuals begins discussing the possibilities of what happened. One even suggests that Mok might be the familiar of a yellow spirit, but they dismiss it as impossible since there's no way to make a resentful spirit a familiar. The cult leader concludes that one of his servants will eliminate the third son of Mok's sword mansion and help the vengeful spirit depart. All the unknown figures agree without hesitation. Back at Gyeongwon's residence, the sun starts to rise after a few hours. Go wakes up exhausted, thinking that Gyeongwon was a damn nuisance, as he wanted to sleep after staying up all night, but the boy still had to give him work and leave. He heads to our protagonist's room, delivering a brazier to him, and the boy immediately thanks him. Go asks why the young master wanted it, and the boy explains that he had something he needed to burn. He reveals that he was going to burn the secret manual of Mok's sword mansion, leaving Go shocked. Watching the boy tear apart one of the books, Go is in complete disbelief and questions why. Afterward, our protagonist quickly tosses the torn remains of the book into the fire, sending Go into despair. The young man is utterly speechless and declares that the crazy bastard had burned the millennia-old secret manual. Gyeongwon finally finishes burning all the remnants of the book. Go finally speaks, asking why his young master was doing this. Completely disheartened, he questions why the boy had burned the book, explaining that secret manuals are highly coveted for their many uses. Gyeongwon responds that this was precisely why he burned them, and then throws the last remaining book at his subordinate's face. Finally, the young master explains that he burned the book so that only he could use the knowledge within, leaving Go baffled. The boy explains that everything he needed to know about the books was already in his head. As he turns away, Mok mentions that he needs his subordinate to do just one thing. He explains that when the sun rises, the boy should deliver something to Madame Siak and to his second brother. Go is confused, but our protagonist informs him that he had already said everyone wants those books. Mok suddenly comments that he wishes for a peaceful family. In other words, if they would happily share things among themselves, it would be quite wonderful. Seeing the terrifying expression his master is making, Go realizes what this is all about. The sun continues to rise, and it was already close to 6 in the morning. Cam, while hanging his clothes, thinks that his morning routine is quick. When he wakes up, he organizes his bed and quickly changes his clothes. After that, he cleans his surroundings and then checks the list of things he needs to do for the day. It's a habit he's maintained since his days as an assassin, a life of strict control and advanced planning. However, he soon won't need that anymore, as something good is about to happen. Because when he successfully becomes the subordinate of the second son of the family, he will become an elder of that clan, someone of great importance. Looking toward the horizon, the man thinks that it seems like just yesterday when he was an orphan and lived as an assassin, and it brings him a sense of warm nostalgia. However, Cam, who was at peace, is suddenly interrupted when a young man arrives at his room, stating that young master Umpyong is looking for him. Upon receiving this news, Cam becomes extremely confused, not understanding why he was being summoned so suddenly, and begins to suspect something. We then skip ahead a few hours and hear a loud bang as a door is violently opened by someone. Cam storms out of a room, furious, thinking that everything is a mess. We see that the man, for some reason, has part of his head injured as if he had been struck hard. Some time before that, we see Cam bowing before the third young master, and at that moment, the long-haired man informs him that Cho Ilseng has disappeared. Van Pyong states that he sent guard Cho to check if the third son had truly lost his martial arts, but Cho suddenly disappeared without making contact. Furious, the second son of the mansion questions whether his subordinate dared to deceive him so brazenly. Sensing that something was wrong, the former assassin explains that he did not give false reports to the young master and was certain a different problem occurred. At that moment in his anger, Umpyong throws an object that strikes his subordinate's head, wounding him instantly. Outraged, the long-haired man demands to know why warrior Cho hasn't returned if what Cam said is true, and asks if Cam thinks he's a fool. Desperate, Cam wonders how this could happen, as at this rate, his decision to switch allegiances would be in vain. Frustrated, he denies it, insisting that all the work he's done up until now and all his sacrifices cannot be for nothing, so Cam pleads with Umpyong for more time, saying he will find warrior Cho and prove his innocence. Umpyong questions why he should trust Cam, and the man, determined, responds by swearing on his right arm with all his strength. Cam explains that a martial artist's right arm is everything, so if he fails, his life will be doomed to failure. Seeing that Cam was serious, the third son relents. The long-haired man then tells Cam that he must prove himself. He shouts that Cam has 4 hours, and if he finds warrior Cho, he will believe his words, but if he fails, Cam must forfeit his life. Realizing this was his only chance, the warrior promptly agrees, affirming that he will keep this in mind. Back in the present moment after leaving the temple, Cam is thinking that nothing has gone as planned since Jong appeared. The man thinks that while the chances are slim, if Jong sets something up, he won't sit idly by and begins heading toward our protagonist. Cam ends up running into Go, who is utterly exhausted and tired from all the work. The martial artist grabs his former friend by the neck and presses him against the wall. He angrily states that he told Go not to take his eyes off that brat for even a moment, and asks if Go thought his words were a joke. Chan responds that he did not and that he faithfully obeyed his master's orders, but Cam demands to know what he's doing now. The man also questions if his subordinate is plotting something with that replacement, but before he can get an answer, he notices some books inside Go's coat. Curious, Cam grabs them to understand what this was about. Chen tries to stop him, worried that he will fall into a misunderstanding, but it's already too late. Upon reading the cover of the book, Cam's expression changes completely, becoming furious. He turns and asks Go what he's been doing this whole time. Chan sees that the warrior is completely enraged and realizes that it's already too late. Sometime later, we see several people near the room of our protagonist, shocked by the scene. Chan was dragging Go's unconscious body through the corridors of Mok's quarters. Shortly after, he kicked open the door where Jaeyoung Woon was violently forcing it open. Without remorse, Cam threw the severely injured Go toward our protagonist in an attempt to intimidate him. The maniac seemed to show little affection and simply greeted the warrior. Completely furious, Cam ordered our protagonist to explain himself immediately. While looking at the boy, Jaeyoung Woon thought that just seeing Mok ruined his mood, and at that moment, he played dumb. Seeing that the young man wasn't going to cooperate, Cam closed the door behind him, ready to teach that rebellious substitute a lesson. He walked toward Jaeyoung Woon, affirming to himself that he couldn't shake the anxiety in his head, and told the boy that he had already spoken. Without hesitation, Cam grabbed Mok by the neck and pinned him against the wall. After doing that and leaving our protagonist in a tight spot, Cam declared that if he tried anything funny, he would kill him. Mocking him, Jae-young-won claimed not to remember hearing anything come from the martial artist's mouth. Consumed by rage, Cam questioned what the boy had done to the second son's guard. However, the boy continued to act and said he knew nothing. Even angrier, the warrior demanded that Mok not lie and asked if he had killed Ilseng, but the boy retorted that he wasn't strong enough to defeat Cho. At that moment, Cam thought to himself that he knew that, and what the boy was saying made sense, but still something bothered him as if he couldn't believe it. Mocking his enemy, Mok smiled and asked how the third son, who had lost his martial arts, could kill someone trained. Hearing this, Cam recalled the moment when he had reported to the second son of the mansion master. Now fully consumed by hatred, Cam began to draw a small dagger, declaring that he knew Mok was responsible for it all. Cursing our protagonist, his eyes gleamed blue as he rushed to kill the boy, to put an end to the roots of his problems. However, Jae-young-won seemed unfazed and asked what Cam was going to do, then blamed him for switching sides. Mocking the warrior, Mok commented that the cursed fraud, who had no martial powers, had killed the second son's guard. At that moment, Cam completed his attack on Jae-young-won, and we saw a splash of something like ketchup from someone. A loud sound echoed, and after Cam struck Mok, we could see the guard falling to the ground with our protagonist sitting in front of him. Breaking the silence, the guard said it had been 3 years. He explained that he was born an orphan, raised as an assassin, and had made it to that place after sacrificing all his money, enduring 3 years doing all sorts of jobs. Desperate, the man said that his life depended on those 3 years, and it was his only way to survive. Pachong had ruined everything, not only killing the third son, but also the second son's favorite subordinate. Cam said he would have to kill our protagonist, and even if he stayed there, he would end up dead anyway. So he would kill the boy and leave. However, Cam had an idea and said that wasn't his only option, remembering something he had obtained. He commented that even with Cho Il-sung dead, nothing could be done about that, but there was something that could replace him. The martial artist said he didn't know how Mok had obtained it, but it would still be useful. Determined, Cam asked if Jae-young-won had the rest of that secret manual. Cam thought that if he took the secret manual with him, it would compensate for Il-sung's death, and he might even get more. However, our protagonist responded that he wasn't sure, and Cam stated that he wasn't understanding the situation. The man commented that if things went wrong for him, he could just kill Mok and leave, but who knows, he might change his mind if he had the rest of the secret manual. However, Cam added that if Jae-young-won continued saying he didn't know, he would have a terrible, slow death, full of suffering, so it was better to give up quickly. The young man caved, giving up resistance and responding that he would give Cam the rest of the manual. Cam then removed the knife from Mok's neck, thinking to himself that Mok couldn't pretend to be all-powerful when his life was at risk. The young man stands up and extends his hand to the boy, who, for some reason, simply shakes the guard's hand. Completely confused, the martial artist asks what was happening, and Mok replies by handing over the secret manual. After saying that, the young man reveals that the entire manual is in his head. Jae-young-won also stands up and says that he still has one more thing to say, and then firmly shakes Cam's hand. The young man thanks the warrior and begins using one of the 8 mind-destroying techniques. An aura of energy starts to emanate from Cam's body, and our protagonist uses the first technique called the binding. With that, the martial artist realizes that his internal energy is being drained. He panics and tries to attack Mok with his dagger, while the boy states that he had been wondering who to use that ability on. For that reason, Jae-young-won thanks Cam for offering himself as a test subject and says he is very grateful. Desperate, the man tries to break free by any means and continues delivering attacks, pleading with Mok to release him. Even after several blows, our protagonist remains undisturbed and continues performing the binding ritual. As he keeps attacking the boy, the martial artist curses, saying the young man was an insane bastard. Finally, the bond between the two breaks, and Cam uses that moment to free himself and kick Mok away. After freeing himself from the situation, the warrior sighs, exhausted and weakened. He looks at his hand and realizes he can no longer feel his internal energy and questions whether Mok had absorbed it. Our protagonist begins to rise, commenting that such an outcome was expected from a first-rate martial artist, yet even that ability wasn't enough. So since he had no choice, he needed to find another way to kill Cam. Upon hearing this, Cam asks if Mok thinks that just because he could use such a dirty trick, he could defeat him. Madly, the martial artist charges at the third young master, who merely waits for his attack. The warrior uses his blade to try to end Jae-young-won's life. However, the boy summons the demon monk, who manages to grab Cam's hand and defend his master. Cam, confused, questions how that boy blocked his attack without even touching him. The warrior, after dropping his dagger, wonders what the boy was doing. Jae-young-won steals his enemy's weapon and simply responds that it was just another one of his dirty tricks and that he was going to show his opponent in detail. Cam finally sees a demonic creature looming behind the boy. He becomes extremely confused, unable to even move his hands, which are bound by the creature. With the dagger in hand, Mok comments that he will return to Cam both his energy and the dagger. And immediately after, he strikes Cam squarely in the left side of his chest. After that attack, with no remorse, the boy declares that both things belong to Cam, and therefore, he was returning them. Following the attack, Cam stumbles back from our protagonist, walking backward, injured. The young man begins to spill some ketchup, realizing that he was wounded. He thinks that it's bad as the place where he was stabbed is extremely dangerous, and if he doesn't remove the dagger carefully, the bleeding will worsen. Cam also tells himself that the damn boy not only took his internal energy but also used a supernatural force to attack him. Even so, there was still a twist to the situation, so the young man begins to talk with Mach. With an expression of someone who already had the situation under control, Cam asks if our protagonist had forgotten about the poison he had received. However, the boy seems calm and simply tells his enemy to go ahead. The martial artist still tries to negotiate to reach an agreement as the situation would not benefit either side. The man comments that he would give Jong the antidote and money since the boy's goal was to leave, but only malicious thoughts were swirling in Cam's head. However, suddenly, the man starts bleeding from his mouth and then collapses to his knees on the ground. Mach just watches the scene as if he knew what was happening. Looking at his hand, Cam thinks something is wrong as his ki is circulating uncontrollably, but even so, his condition keeps worsening. He then realizes that the cause of it all was probably poison. On the other hand, Daeong-won is relaxed, thinking that although he was stabbed and cut by a dagger, he wasn't that badly hurt, yet it still hurt. The young man explains to his kneeling opponent that it's nothing serious, and that when his enemy stabbed him with the dagger, a lot of his blood splattered. He walks over to the window, opening it, and explains, before Cam departs, that his blood is extremely poisonous. The boy informs Cam that he knew the ingredients of the poisonous orb his enemy had given him, and that he had consumed all kinds of poisonous herbs while growing up, making his blood toxic. As he walks around the room, he slowly crouches down to his enemy and asks if he understood that he didn't need the antidote. The man in despair realizes that his life might end there. Our protagonist begins to mock him, questioning why his enemy was trembling. Mach comments that the man will live a little longer if his body temperature is low, which is why he opened the window. Desperate, the only thing Cam can do is reach out his arms to Mach, pleading for mercy. He begins to swear loyalty while begging for forgiveness from his greatest opponent. As he crawls on the ground, the man declares that he will become our protagonist's dog. He promises to lick his feet and obey everything the boy commands, no matter what, just to spare his life. With this sudden reaction, for some reason, Daeong-won responds that he liked that attitude. Then the boy says that if Cam continues behaving like that, they would work well together. The man, thinking he had survived, looks at our protagonist, feeling extremely relieved by that response. However, the boy rephrases his statement, saying that it would have only happened if Cam had acted like that from the start. Once again, the boy uses the dagger to strike the martial artist's body. Mach states that his enemy switches sides based on his own needs and that he has no loyalty at all. In other words, it was better for both of them if Cam were no longer alive. The man, now seeing his life flash before his eyes, falls backward and Mach stands over his body. A silence falls over the room, and finally, after all that battle, the martial artist is dead. Daeong-won breathes a sigh of relief, but while stretching, he thinks that his body still aches a little as he really had been stabbed with that dagger. However, either way, he resolved things faster than expected and wonders if he should call it luck since he had planned to kill Cam. The boy, without any pity, looks to the side and questions whether he should kill Go-chan. However, he decides not to, reasoning that considering Cam didn't know he had burned the secret manual, Go kept that secret and could still be useful. Mach immediately orders Go to wake up, and the boy promptly gets up. He asks how his master knew about it, and the young man replies that it was impossible not to notice, as Chan kept moving slightly from his spot. Proud, Daeong-won says that his subordinate knows how to keep secrets, and that he's liking him more and more. Mach then orders Go to send everyone away as he will take care of Cam's body personally. Looking toward the lifeless figure, the boy wonders if he should begin. Our protagonist approaches his opponent and starts absorbing his internal energy. With that energy circulating through his body, the boy thinks he can feel the warmth, but it still has no use. Moreover, it wasn't what he wanted to check. His real goal was to feel the cold, sinister energy he had sensed in the underground pavilion the last time. That was the key of death he had felt while killing people. A black residual energy begins to swirl around our protagonist's body after the purple energy fades. The young man is pleased that his experiment worked and thinks that he can really feel it, as it was the same sensation as before. He notes that the cold ki isn't spreading like internal energy, instead is gathering around his core, so Mach assumes that to acquire it, he will need to kill more people. Watching the scene was the blue spirit, shocked by what she saw. The woman says to the monk, who was also there, that she now understands why he allows the boy to control him, then remarks that our protagonist is a complete monster. Sometime later, we see a first-class guard, Jun Yangpyeong, saying that he didn't think the warrior Cam was lying. Ampyeong responds that he knew and that there was no reason for Cam to lie about something they could verify later. Confused, the guard asks why his master did that, and the boy explains that when you are kind to someone from the start, they become arrogant. That's why he had to show Cam how strict he could be, because if he forgave later, Cam would learn to be submissive. The young man also says it's necessary to be cruel to someone before being kind so that your good deeds stand out. John promptly understands and remarks that he wasn't familiar with such wisdom. In his head, he thinks that warrior Cam wasn't a loyal man and that test was necessary. Moreover, Ampyeong would likely be the successor. However, in that room, another subordinate of the second son arrives, stating that they had a problem. The second-class guard, Han Sang, brings the news that warrior Cam had attempted to kill the young master Mok. Upon hearing this, Eunpyeong and Jian are in shock. The guard asks why, and Eunpyeong replies that if this was Cam's way of proving his innocence, it was a foolish way to do it. However, the second guard responds that it wasn't important because the third son Mok had announced that the second son was behind the assassination attempt. Upon hearing this, Eunpyeong becomes completely furious. Jian then questions Han Sang, asking what kind of slander that was and inquires about Cam's fate. Han responds that regarding that the man had apparently gone missing, revealing that he was with Ilsing in an unknown pavilion. After hearing all this, Eunpyeong lets his fury take over and curses his damned brother. He draws his sword, declaring that he will never forgive Gyeongwon for this. Without hesitation, Eunpyeong rushes to try and end our protagonist's life, but Jian attempts to stop him, reminding him that if Eunpyeong does something against Mok, it will only prove his point. Eunpyeong turns to his subordinate and asserts that at that moment Mok was probably very pleased with the situation, which is why he couldn't stand by and do nothing. The first guard suggests that since that's the case, his master should have others handle it. The man says that the third son had informed the outer corridor that guard Cam had tried to kill him, and if that's true, things would be easier to resolve, since the organization to which guard Cam was affiliated had its own strict rules due to their pride as assassins. He comments that failing an assassination is unacceptable, and that rule applies even to retired assassins. Completing the mission above all else is their law. Jian then says that he will talk to one of the 3 largest assassin organizations in Zhongyuan, the sect of the Flying Assassins, a gang of vicious individuals. Upon hearing this, Eunpyeong makes a terrifying expression and tells his subordinate that it's a brilliant idea. Later that same night, we see Go guarding a room where the third son of the mansion master is meditating. The boy thinks to himself that he has been trying to create an energy core as described in the secret manual. We then see those purple particles called ki flowing through his entire body. He feels something different but fails again, thinking that he could circulate the ki very closely, but as soon as it got close enough, it would disperse. The young man calls for Chan, who quickly responds, asking what his master needed. Mok says that he's been trying to create an energy core, but the ki keeps dissipating, so he asks if Chan has any idea why that might be. Go thinks to himself that this boy, who until recently knew nothing about martial arts, was incredibly intelligent as he had been able to sense ki overnight and even circulate it. Chan considers scolding the boy, but immediately remembers that if he does, he's sure to get beaten. So instead, he asks the young master if he can check what's happening. The man explains that he will only imbue his body with his own ki to see why Mok's ki is dispersing, while thinking it's better not to upset the boy. The guard moves behind our protagonist, placing his hands on his back, telling him not to worry about anything and just focus on circulating the ki. Gyeongwon begins to do so, and for some reason, Go is startled. Seeing such an incredible demonstration, the man can only say that it's simply impossible. Though disbelieving, he realizes that our protagonist is truly doing it and doesn't have any blockages and the flow is smooth. The man cannot believe that the boy in front of him is truly a genius. Suddenly, Go closes his eyes and begins doing something. He senses a strange energy, something cold and sinister. Out of nowhere, for some reason, Mok's and Go's energies collide and the guard's arms are thrown backward. With that, Jaehyun stands up, stating that once again the ki had dispersed. Already knowing the outcome, the boy asks Go to be honest and questions whether he'll be able to create an energy core if this continues, but the man replies that he won't. Chan comments that he felt something strange near where the boy's energy core should be, but he has no idea what it could be. With that, the boy becomes extremely downcast, realizing that the cold energy was affecting him, and he wonders what he will do as his only option seems to be giving up. As he tries to find a solution, Go comments that it's very strange as whatever was dispersing the ki seemed odd, like something completely opposite. Mok is impressed by the idea, but Go quickly responds that it's just a hypothesis and that he doesn't need to pay attention to it. However, the boy begins to think out loud, realizing that normal ki is warm, but this death ki is cold, so Chan was probably right. The young man has the idea to circulate his ki in the opposite direction, but seeing this, Chan becomes confused. The guard tries to warn the young master to stop as it will lead to a ki blockage. However, a red liquid surrounds the man, pulling him back and covering his mouth. The blue spirit appears behind him and orders him to stay quiet. The girl, observing the situation, thinks Mok is an idiot, as he's going to end up killing himself by testing such ideas. She explains that if a familiar spirit lays hands on its human, it gets hurt, but if a human dies in another way, the contract between them is nullified. The woman comments to the monk that it seems they'll be freed sooner than expected. As soon as the soul of our protagonist dies and leaves his body, she plans to tear the boy apart, leaving nothing behind. Meanwhile, at the Blessed Flower Hall during the night, Lady Siak is meeting someone, and this mysterious person introduces herself as New Moon. She claims to be a shaman from the Phoenix Pavilion. Siak, looking at this mysterious figure, is confused as one of their more famous shamans had died, and yet they only sent one person. who also seemed young. Moreover, Siak tries to understand why this girl brought the body of the deceased shaman with her. The shaman, as if reading her thoughts, states that the body of the disciple Mayo will be useful for the ritual, as it will help her track the spirit that killed him. Upon hearing this, Lady Siak realizes that New Moon called the old man a disciple, which means she holds a higher rank than him. However, the shaman asserts that there's something she needs to clarify before beginning. Determined, New Moon states that the third son will die regardless of anything. Lady Siak responds that, to be honest, she didn't like New Moon before, but now that she heard the girl say that, she's completely changed her mind. The shaman then begins to gather her power, and an intensely blue aura becomes visible around her body. She starts reciting some words, clasping her hands together, and suddenly the lifeless body of Mayo shows some spasms. New Moon chants some words about the ritual and performs some hand gestures, finally concluding with something called the Swift Decree. The woman uses a dagger to pierce the lifeless body of Mayo. For some reason, after being struck, the old man begins to emit a terrifying aura and convulses. Groaning sounds can be heard, and a strange reaction occurs in Mayo's neck. Several hands begin to emerge from the lifeless body of the man, and something horrifying happens. These hands start to follow a path toward their target. They finally find and reach the blue spirit and the monk. The hands pass by the two and head towards our protagonist, who is defenseless, meditating. Under Monk's orders, the monk immediately tries to protect him from the strange hands, positioning himself in front of the boy. However, the strange arms attack him, throwing the mystical being into the wall and injuring him in the process, but for some reason, they do not finish him off. Seeing this, the blue spirit, after a closer analysis, realizes that the ritual is a reverse assassination. Back where Siak is, she understands that this ritual means that every time the girl stabs Mayo's body, the third son will suffer the pain and be affected. New Moon continues mercilessly, attempting to end Monk's life by repeatedly stabbing Mayo. However, the monk is ready to protect his master. Siak thinks that just imagining it gives her immense pleasure, and she craves more and more. The shaman, without mercy, continues to stab the body, while on the other side, the hands attacking the monk give up and change direction, heading toward Mok. Once again, New Moon uses her dagger, and meanwhile, the only thing Lady Siak can think about is seeing the third son suffer even more. The blue spirit, calmly observing the situation, calls the attacking entity an inferior creature, and immediately uses her ability to slice part of the hands. She then questions how that person dared to do such a thing, turning her gaze towards New Moon in an attempt to locate her exact position. The blue spirit can see exactly where the woman is and wonders how the shaman dared to interfere with her prey. She commands the person to leave immediately, and without hesitation uses her attack to cut even more of the hands present and launch them towards New Moon. That attack travels a long distance, but after some time it finally reaches and strikes the shaman directly. With this powerful blow, New Moon and Mayo's body are thrown into the air in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, Lady Siak rushes to the girl and asks if she is alright. The injured shaman can only mutter that it was impossible because that attack had repelled her reverse assassination. Witnessing this, New Moon concludes that there wasn't just a yellow spirit present. Nevertheless, the shaman remains unfazed and tells Siak that she will need a higher payment for what she's about to do. Confused, Siak asks what the girl means, and New Moon states that she will need at least 1,000 Nying dishes to compensate. Siak's subordinate denies the request, saying she had already taken 500, which should be enough. But New Moon retorts that it wasn't what she expected and says she's risking her life. Siak asks if the situation is truly that dangerous. New Moon explains that it's a high-ranking evil spirit, and even a yellow spirit can threaten a person's life. This one is far greater. She also adds that anything stronger than a yellow spirit is a disaster, and most shamans are unable to deal with anything above that level. But New Moon asserts that she's an exception as she is extremely talented, causing Siak to hesitate. Without further question, Siak agrees and comments that she will give the girl the additional 1,000. However, she demands that New Moon have a well-thought-out plan to get rid of Mok Gyeongwon. New Moon begins to remove her overcoat and explains that shamans have ranks just like spirits. From highest to lowest they are divine, sun, moon, talent, darkness, and bearer. She is 2 levels above Mayo, who is a bearer rank and had only 5 years of basic training. Finally, the girl's eyes begin to glow and she states that she is of talent rank. Looking at the young woman's presence, Lady Siak thinks she had believed the shaman to be much older and suspects she might have lied. However, at that moment, a dark energy begins to spread throughout New Moon's body, and she declares that she is also one of the 3 shamans of the Phoenix Pavilion. Specializing in dealing with familiar spirits, this terrifying aura oppresses everyone in the room, making them feel a crushing pressure. She opens the door and guarantees to Lady Siak that the third son will not survive this situation. Back in the other location, our protagonist remains in the same position, still meditating. The blue spirit thinks these little pests are far more annoying than expected and wonders how they dared to interfere, knowing that if Mok had died during this, her plan would have failed. However, as the spirit looks at Mok, she notices that he is emitting a terrible and extremely frightening energy. As soon as she looks, she realizes it's Yin Ki of death, but that should be impossible. Confused, the woman wonders how a living person could be collecting death K and mutters that it doesn't make sense. The spirit simply states that this young man is definitely not normal. On the contrary, Mach has managed to understand the circulation ritual incredibly quickly and learned to circulate Ki in one go, and now he's collecting death Ki while still alive. At that moment, Mach begins to awaken and sees a dark aura surrounding his body. Finally, the blue spirit admits, reluctantly, that the boy is starting to intrigue her. Seeing this, the boy is extremely pleased, knowing he was right. The answer lay in the reverse circulation of his Ki, which hadn't dissipated like before. Unfortunately, he hadn't yet been able to form a core. Shocked, the blonde girl approaches our protagonist and asks if he is sure he's alive. The boy, confused, replies that she can see for herself, and the girl wonders how a human could collect death Ki. Mach is even more perplexed by the situation, as he didn't know he wasn't supposed to be able to gather that type of Ki. Besides that, Jae-young-woon asks the girl something else, wondering what had happened in the room, to which she responds that it had taken him too long to notice. Our protagonist walks over to Go, noticing that not only was the demon monk unconscious, but his guard was as well. However, the girl says she isn't sure what happened. At that moment, the monk awakens and starts gossiping about everything that occurred to his master. Upon hearing this, the blue spirit becomes extremely irritated, calling him an idiot. The girl says she thought the monk was on her side and begins to attack him, and as Mach watches, he comments that she is quite persistent. She responds that Jae-young-woon should be grateful since she saved him from a reverse assassination, but the young man doesn't understand what that is. However, before he can ask more, they hear a terrifying sound and everyone in the room senses something. The blonde remains silent, but Mach questions what it is. A chilling voice remarks that Mach has quite the dilemma on his hands, and soon it begins to approach the door to Jae-young-woon's room. Suddenly, a dark energy begins to seep into the room where Mach is. Seeing this, the blue spirit questions what kind of insane fool decided to take that thing as a familiar spirit, but Jae-young-woon asks what this being is. The girl explains that it's a mountain spirit, and they realize that the dark energy is made up of countless terrifying insects. The blue spirit then informs Mach that it's a beast with a mountain-piercing carapace. After this event, the narrator explains that spirits that reside in the mountains are referred to as chimi, while those of the sea are called morio. For a long time, people have called these spirits that bring disasters and problems chimimorio. One of these is the mountain-piercing carapace beast, and we see a creature resembling a crow made of darkness land on New Moon's arm. This creature, with only one eye, emits a strange noise indicating that it is in service to its mistress. The girl releases the monster, which flies off, pursuing something. This spirit looks like a bird, but has the tail of a snake and attracts insects to cause chaos. Moreover, it's highly lethal. The shaman watches her familiar spirit take flight. As New Moon walks toward our protagonist, surrounded by insects, she reflects that there are no friendships among shamans. This is because they all dance close to death, so she wasn't too sad that her disciple had died. However, it's not pleasant to see such a familiar face being ruined by an evil spirit. More and more insects begin to gather around the young woman as if under her control. While making a hand seal, she declares that the third son, Mach Jae-young-woon, will become food for her familiar spirit. We return to the moment when our protagonist is facing a swarm of insects coming toward him, and he becomes extremely uncomfortable. Go, having been previously restrained by the blue spirit, was peacefully sleeping. He is violently awakened by Mach, who strikes his face and orders the guard to wake up. Mach is struggling with a swarm of insects, and upon waking up and seeing the scene, Go asks what's happening, to which Mach simply demands his guard's help. Chan is stunned multiple times, and when he looks at his hand, he sees it is completely wounded. The guard states that he had only touched the bugs for a second, prompting Jae-young-woon to instruct Go to use his internal energy to protect himself. In this situation, Jae-young-woon thinks that although the insects are small, it will only take a moment for them to devour everyone, given their sheer numbers. The blue spirit sits calmly, mockingly asking what our protagonist will do as he's about to become insect food at this rate. The boy tries to bargain, asking the blonde for help, but she responds that she has no reason to assist him. The woman says she would consider helping him if she could have Mach's body, but upon hearing this, the boy tells her to drop the idea. Once again, he is attacked and quickly retaliates, stating that there are too many of those creatures and that they are a nuisance. Suddenly, the blue spirit declares that since Mach won't give up his body, they should make a bet. She explains that if Mach ends up on the verge of death, he will lose, and since he's about to die anyway, she will take his body. However, if the young man manages to survive the situation, she will help him whenever he needs from that day onward. The boy promptly responds that it would be best if she kept that promise, and right after, he crushes a centipede that was crawling on his hand. Go is in a state of complete panic, seeing the swarm of insects coming toward them, unsure of what they should do. The guard tells his young master that there are even more of those bugs, and he asks what they should do. Jae-young-woon then orders Go to find something flammable, as they are going to set fire to the place. He explains that if they start a fire using a lantern, he is sure all those insects will die. Chan responds that this is going too far, but Mux seems not to hear him. Our protagonist begins to use his ability and a purple aura surrounds his hand. With that, he draws a distant lantern to his hand in an instant. Go, seeing this, asks what just happened, but the only response Moke gives is that he doesn't have time to explain. As he starts using the fire to burn a handkerchief, Jae-woon wonders who could have orchestrated this, as the situation is highly unusual. Mock, shrewdly, quickly deduces that the entire situation was likely caused by Lady Seok. The young man also suspects that the woman has a shaman with her, and this will cause chaos if he sets a fire in that place. Thus, he plans to use that chaos to kill the shaman. Before Mock can ignite the place, New Moon gives a command to the beast, and suddenly, the insects in the room begin to take form. Without hesitation, the creatures attack the focal point of the fire Mock was creating. As she walks through the corridors, New Moon questions whether Mock really thought she would let him get away with those little tricks. More and more insects accompany her, and the girl arrogantly declares that he is quite foolish. She mutters to herself that her right eye, the white eye, can see what others cannot. She reveals that this special sight allows her to see the world of Ki. So whatever Mock was trying to do behind those walls won't remain hidden. It's then revealed that the girl can observe everything happening with her right eye. She touches a wall near the room where Mock is and quickly destroys it. New Moon enters the space confidently, but Mock doesn't seem shaken and merely welcomes her. As the woman analyzes her enemy, she notices one of Monk's familiar spirits attempting to attack her, and at that moment, the monk strikes at her. However, she uses an incantation, summoning multiple hands that strike the monk. Without remorse, the shaman steps on the monk's head, declaring that it's useless. She tells Jae-woon that she can see absolutely everything, and at that moment, Go prepares to throw a knife at her. However, the girl swiftly responds, pulling out a seal and reciting a few words. She launches the attack at Chan, who is struck by a series of lightning bolts, forcing him to drop the knife. Our protagonist grabs the knife, quickly arming himself to counterattack. Even so, Numu gives him no chance and immediately uses her beast's power to unleash a swarm of insects on Jae-woon. Without hesitation, the swarm of creatures charges toward the boy, ready to devour him alive. Seeing the ticks swarming toward him, the young man realizes things are about to get really bad. He is quickly hit by the swarm and thrown back against the wall. With the crow perched on her hand, New Moon tells the third son of the mansion that he should cross into the realm of spirits and be eliminated immediately. Several of the tiny creatures begin forming a whirlwind around our protagonist, who appears unresponsive. However, the boy doesn't seem to be affected, as if he has a plan. The girl, after launching the attack, slowly walks toward our protagonist. Go is unconscious after being hit by the lightning. The monk is entirely bound by New Moon's spell, and Mok appears to be unconscious. In that situation, the shaman thinks it was easier than she expected and wonders if it was a misunderstanding to think a green spirit was involved. New Moon strokes her bird, praising it for doing well. Declaring victory, she tells her familiar spirit that they should leave now, as the enemies will soon be consumed by the swarm of insects. As she begins to leave, she remarks that the mission wasn't difficult at all, but suddenly, she notices something. For some reason, Mok begins to rise, and upon sensing this, New Moon is completely shocked. The young man, without hesitation, plunges his own dagger into his arm, sending blood splattering in all directions. The insects touched by his blood begin to fall, poisoned and killed instantly. The shaman, witnessing the scene, is utterly stunned, seeing the maniac before her cutting himself. He continues to injure himself, slashing his arms just to rid himself of those vile insects. After Mok kills all the creatures, the shaman turns to see our protagonist standing tall. The boy is drenched in his own blood, committing an act of sheer madness. As he does this, he maintains an extremely terrifying expression, showing no sign of being affected. Without hesitation and without giving New Moon time to think, Jae-woon charges at the shaman, stating that it's a pity. As he wields Go's dagger, the young man explains that his blood is a lethal poison, making it an excellent way to exterminate insects. He rushes past New Moon, who falls to the side, shocked by the sudden attack. The girl quickly commands her beast to advance, and the crow lets out a loud screech. The spirit gathers a strange attack, sending darkness toward our protagonist. Meanwhile, New Moon realizes that she can no longer use insects to attack him, so she takes advantage of the moment while Mok is distracted to cast a spell. She uses the method of spiritual power command, and a golden light begins to emanate from her hands. During this event, our protagonist remains unfazed and, using one of the 8 mind-shattering techniques, initiates the ritual of binding. The crow, which was at a distance from Mok, is suddenly pulled toward him. With ease, Jae-woon grabs the strange creature by its neck. Seeing this, New Moon panics and questions what is happening. As Mok tightens his grip around the creature's neck, the only thing the maniac says is that finally, everything's quiet. Seeing her companion being attacked, the shaman immediately rushes toward Mok. However, due to her familiar bond with the spirit, the girl begins to feel immense pain. New Moon becomes enraged, realizing that the pain the beast feels is being transferred to her through their connection. The crow continues to screech, indicating that something is terribly wrong. The girl then notices that Mok is absorbing the demonic ki from the beast. But given the situation, she thinks this should be impossible, as demonic K is harmful to living beings. Nevertheless, upon looking at Mok, she realizes that the boy is full of yin ki of death. As he holds the monster, our protagonist reflects that this was unexpected. Gyeong-won mutters to himself that he grabbed the creature merely to prevent it from doing anything, but there was a dark energy inside it. Not only that, but the amount of this energy being absorbed into his body is overwhelming. The young man starts to think that this is much more compared to what he absorbed when killing people, and it might just be enough to form an energy core. At that moment, New Moon pleads with the boy to stop immediately, saying that if he continues, the crow will die. Upon hearing this, the only response Gyeong-won gives is a small smile, thinking up a sinister plan. Meanwhile, back at the Blessed Flower Hall, Seok's subordinate remarks that it's very cold there. The woman questions why her lady doesn't wait inside, but the first lady replies that she can't do so without knowing what's happening. She states that she'll need to intervene if things go wrong, and after saying this, she reflects that she asked the shaman to do two things. One was to kill Mok, and the other was to retrieve the secret manual, because if things went terribly wrong, she needed to ensure no one else would get their hands on it. One of the lady's other subordinates then comments that the shaman is approaching. Seok, glancing to the side, sees New Moon slowly walking through the darkness. The lady assumes the shaman must have succeeded and celebrates happily. She thinks that the cursed Gyeong-won must be dead, and the secret manual is now in her possession, ensuring her son will finally become the master of the mansion. At this moment, the lady's two subordinates begin to congratulate her, making Seok feel a bit embarrassed. However, as they look at the shaman, all three notice something strange. Seok questions why New Moon suddenly stopped walking and asks what happened. Embarrassed, the young woman prepares herself and then bows before the first lady. The girl cries out that the Phoenix Pavilion could not kill Master Gyeong-won. Upon hearing this, Seok is utterly shocked, questioning what could be happening. In her mind, New Moon reflects that the boy was a cunning devil, likely having orchestrated everything, knowing full well what would happen. We return to the moment when New Moon pleaded with Mok to stop, and the boy responds that he would only do so if she exposed Seok. He asserts that even if he killed New Moon, Seok would just send someone else after him, which is why he wanted her to defame the First Lady. He explains that if she does so, the Phoenix Pavilion and Lady Seok would become enemies. Back to the present, New Moon considers that by doing this, she would become a traitor to the Phoenix Pavilion, but she has no choice. She then tells Seok that the woman had claimed that the young master Mok was possessed. Moreover, New Moon loudly declares that Seok had asked the Phoenix Pavilion to exterminate the spirit and kill Gyeong-won, but the young master was perfectly normal. For this reason, she asks Seok to never again make such requests to the Phoenix Pavilion. Seeing herself exposed, Seok panics as everyone in the mansion hears that the First Lady had been trying to kill the third son. The people then order someone to go to the Blessed Flower Hall to arrest the First Lady. With this, Seok's subordinates realize that the martial artists from the outer hall are coming and try to warn her. At that moment, Seok wears a horrified expression, thinking that all of this is Gyeong-won's fault. New Moon quietly leaves the scene, having thrown everything into chaos. As she passes by a window, we see Mok inside the room, questioning if the girl had done as he commanded. Gyeong-won is still holding the neck of the shaman's familiar spirit, threatening her. New Moon promptly replies that, as he can see, she did. Frustrated, she mutters to herself that everything turned out the way Mok wanted in the end. Now, Lady Seok has become both an enemy of the Phoenix Pavilion and a villain. However, New Moon also reflects that she is in no position to worry about Seok, having betrayed the Phoenix Pavilion herself to save her familiar spirit. She tells our protagonist that it's time to leave and asks him to return the spirit as promised. Mok responds that before he does, he has one more thing to say. With a sly smile, he states that there's something specific he wants to ask the girl. After a moment, New Moon asks Mok if he really wants to know about Chimamoryo. The boy quickly replies that he does, as he wants information about people who control spirits, like the demon monk and the feathered head. The girl, observing his actions, thinks that, as expected, the young man wasn't possessed, but rather possesses a familiar spirit himself, though she doesn't understand how he accomplished that. Moreover, there is another spirit filled with immense resentment present, which sends chills down her spine. Without remorse, the young man tightens his grip on the poor crow's neck, demanding whether the girl is going to talk. Seeing her familiar spirit being threatened, New Moon promptly agrees to explain. She explains that there are 6 levels among the Chimamoryo: Sinister Beast, Strange Beast, Mystic Beast, Demonic Beast, Sacred Beast, and Divine Beast. The girl also informs him that the Phoenix Pavilion has 3 people, including herself, who can control these beasts as familiar spirits. One of them is Go, who has been a great help to the Pavilion Master and deals with strange mountain beasts called Gu Diao, though she doesn't know the full extent of his powers. The other is the Master of the Phoenix Pavilion. She isn't sure what type of Chimamoryo the Master possesses, but she's certain it's one of the highest levels. Our protagonist, confused, asks if the Master has a sacred beast or a divine beast. The girl replies that those only exist in legends, and there are only a few stories of people who acquired sacred beasts as familiars. It's more likely to be a mystic or demonic beast. She pulls a book out of her clothes about the subject and hands it to our protagonist. Receiving the gift, the boy thanks her. The young man is highly impressed, thinking that even the mountain-piercing carapace beast had an immense amount of ki, and he wonders what the master might possess. He acknowledges that having a high-level Chimemoria would be valuable, but it would be incredibly difficult to obtain. Then, without hesitation, the boy throws the crow back to its owner and comments that she did a good job. The young man asks if the girl wasn't going to thank him, and despite her reluctance, New Moon says thank you, mock. After that entire display of cruelty, Jaehyung-won allows the girl to leave, and Go, who had been watching the scene, cannot bear his master's harsh personality. New Moon, embarrassed and furious at everything that transpired, quietly leaves the place, seething with anger. On the other hand, Mock is completely elated, thinking it was a lucky day. Lady Seok can no longer harm him, as she will now be under the scrutiny of everyone in the mansion. Additionally, all anicap from the mountain-piercing carapace beast had entered his body, enough for him to create an energy core. Now he would be able to learn martial arts and become someone powerful. Suddenly, Go approaches Mook, asking if he is sure everything will be okay. The boy explains that the shaman probably holds a grudge against his master, but Mock doesn't seem to care much. Chan then questions whether his master is worried, as she could seek revenge or do something worse, and at that moment, Mock agrees with him. However, Jaehyung-won confidently declares that New Moon won't be able to do anything. Shortly after, New Moon is seen speaking to someone unknown, stating that it's time for them to fulfill their side of the bargain. Elsewhere, as she looks at her injured familiar spirit, New Moon thinks she wouldn't be surprised if it died now. As she broods over our protagonist's name, the girl becomes completely enraged. She glares in Mook's direction, declaring that she will retreat for now, but she will return soon. However, a mysterious voice suddenly comments that it seems New Moon is swearing vengeance. Startled, the woman hurriedly moves away as if dodging something unknown. For a moment, silence falls over the entire area. New Moon reflects that the sensation is far too strange and something is definitely happening. Her red eye begins to bleed, and during this, she declares that she can't believe there is someone so powerful, evil, and sinister. Suddenly, two feminine hands appear behind her. Those red nails encircle the shaman's eye, causing it to bleed even more. After shedding tears of blood, the woman sees in front of her a figure she had hoped never to encounter. The blue spirit stands right before her eyes, bathed in the light of a blood moon. In a strangely pleasant tone, the blonde comments that New Moon is quite beautiful, even without her eye. At that moment, the blood pouring from the girl's eyes starts to flow into her mouth. She realizes she can no longer breathe, and shortly after, she loses consciousness. Elsewhere, we see Seok angrily slamming her fist on a table, shouting at the mansion's external master that she is being slandered. The woman insists that the boy is framing her and asks if the master really believes she would try to harm Mock. Seok further claims that the shaman and the third son are conspiring against her, possibly trying to incriminate her. However, with authority, the master commands her to be quiet, and immediately, she complies. Sang Wongbek, with a commanding tone, orders the woman to remain silent for a moment. He then asks what the commotion in the medicinal hall was about the day before, and Seok explains that it concerned Mook's forbidden entrance into the mansion master's hall. However, Wongbek responds that it doesn't make sense since Jaehyung-won saved the mansion master and asks if Seok was attempting to harm the mansion master. The woman quickly denies this, but something suddenly happens. As she looks at Sang, she becomes extremely intimidated and falls silent immediately. The man replies that he cannot simply let this incident pass and announces that an investigation will soon be conducted on Seok. He assures her not to worry, as it will be a fair investigation, thoroughly examining her, the second son, and the third son as well. We then cut to our protagonist, sitting and meditating with the death energy swirling around him. Back to the external master of the mansion, after Seok leaves, the man seems uneasy. Sang wonders to himself why both the second son and Lady Seok tried to kill the third son. He reflects that it would make sense if they were competing for power or targeting the younger generation, as Mock is deeply loved by the mansion master, but Mock is far too weak. Wongbek then speculates that they may have a specific reason for wanting the third son dead. The man comments that now that he thinks about it, Mock didn't act like his usual self during their interrogation, as he is usually quite arrogant. Sang also mentions that he initially thought Mock was just in shock from the near-death experience, but something still felt very strange. He stands up, affirming that it seems like he has no other choice and will have to investigate personally. Meanwhile, Mock is meditating, and the blue spirit arrives through a portal. Upon entering, she is greeted by the monk who bows before her. Observing Jaehyung-won meditating, she is impressed. The young woman admits she never imagined he could collect so much ki from the mountain-piercing carapace beast. She also found it odd when Mock mentioned using death ki to create his energy core, but perhaps it really is possible. Impressed by Jaehyung-won, she watches him silently. As she approaches the young man, she thinks he doesn't seem so bad after all, almost admiring his appearance. At that moment, the boy opens his eyes, seeing the blonde standing right in front of him staring. He asks what she's doing, and the woman becomes extremely embarrassed by the situation. The spirit quickly turns around, responding that she wasn't doing anything at all. Mock, teasing the blonde, asks what was going on, his tone playful, and the girl snaps. She yells at him to stop with the nonsense and focus on circulating his ki, while the young man just laughs. Annoyed, the woman wonders why she accepted that bet, blaming the shaman for not doing a better job. Suddenly, Mok remembers something and says he needs to check something. He mentions that he needs to see if the energy core is the same one the blue spirit spoke about before. The girl responds that an energy core can't be formed in just one day, and that if he continues like this, he'll only manage to gather a small amount of ki. However, as the spirit looks to the side, she notices that Mok is surrounded by a strong aura and an energy core is already forming just beneath his navel. The girl is utterly astonished by this and asks if she can take a closer look to verify something. Mok, curious, asks what she plans to do, and the spirit explains that she just wants to place her hand on his energy core and use her fingertips to touch it. As she does so, for some reason, she feels something extremely strange and Mok asks what she's doing. The woman replies that her hand is entered, but she doesn't understand why, and Jae-young-woon, confused, asks what is happening. The spirit admits she has no idea and turns to the monk, asking him to try. They continue touching our protagonist, who remains confused, but the only thing the blonde says is that she's unsure of what's going on. She questions herself, wondering if it's because she's a familiar spirit. With an idea in mind, the blue spirit glances over at Go-chan, who is sleeping. She attempts to touch his energy core, causing him to wake up in immense pain, and she finally realizes it worked. Go groans in agony, and the only comment the spirit makes is that the boy is being dramatic. She tells Mok that it doesn't seem to be her problem, prompting him to ask if there's another way to check. The spirit replies that there is, but at that moment, they both feel something strange. All three in the room turn to the door, as if sensing something. Standing there is Sang, calling out to the young master and asking if he's asleep. Hearing this, Mok wonders what Sang would want to speak with him about so late. Sang Wonbaek is one of the mansion's most loyal subordinates, having served for 2 generations, and the elders trust him. Because of this, not even Lady Seok could do anything against him, and he currently holds the greatest influence in the mansion. At that moment, Sang enters our protagonist's room. Confused, the boy asks what the man is doing there, and Sang simply replies. First, he wishes to apologize, saying that despite the protection of the martial artists from the outer mansion, Mok was attacked. Bowing, the man stays in that position, but Jae-young-woon immediately asks him to stand up, saying there's no need for concern. With a gentle smile, the only thing Mok says is that he's completely fine. Suddenly, Sang stands up and moves his hand towards our protagonist's head. He pauses for a moment, and Mok, observing the scene, wonders what Sang is doing. Without warning, the mansion's external master changes his expression, breaking into a smile and lightly patting Mok on the shoulder. Looking around, Sang asks where the dagger he had gifted Mok is, leaving the young man extremely confused. Then the external master clarifies that he is referring to the self-defense dagger he gave Mok. He asks if our protagonist has lost it, and for some reason, Mok glances at Go. After a moment, Mok says he remembered and then casually mentions that he had stored it in a drawer. Hearing this, Sang responds that it's good to hear. Wonbaek laughs, saying it would have been a shame if the boy had lost it. But suddenly, Mok comments that no matter how much he tries to recall, he doesn't remember ever receiving such a dagger. At that moment, the external master's expression shifts, becoming serious, and he responds that he never gave Mok any such dagger. Without hesitation, he lunges to attack Mok with his fists. Jae-young-woon, moving with extreme speed, dodges by leaping into the air and placing his hand on the headboard of his bed. Sang explains that Jong made 2 critical mistakes. As he speaks, the man strikes various pressure points on our protagonist, stating that the first mistake was that the 3rd young master was too arrogant, and second, after being beaten by the 4th young master, Mok would always retreat whenever it looked like someone was about to hit him. However, this time our protagonist did not flinch or retreat. After striking Mok's meridians, Sang states that the boy will no longer be able to move and demands that he confess the truth. Despite being thrown into the air, Mok somehow stops himself and lands on his feet. Sang is visibly confused, questioning what's happening. At that moment, with a terrifying expression, Mok summons the blue spirit, who emerges from a portal behind Wonbaek. The man is quickly struck in the back and feels his heart being grasped by feminine hands. Standing behind him, the blue spirit taunts him, asking how he dared do such a thing and stating that he was begging to be killed. In front of him, Mok nonchalantly remarks that the spirit is just as talented as he expected. The blonde spirit then explains that since life ki and death ki are on opposite sides of the spectrum, Mok used this to block his meridians. She further notes that a body resistant to acupuncture, without needing an immense amount of energy, is extremely interesting. She adds that the boy was able to create an energy core, but now that it's been discovered, she wonders what he plans to do since he can't stay here anymore. Mok, after a moment of thought, admits he didn't expect to be exposed in this way, but an idea soon comes to him. He orders the demon monk to possess Wonbaek. The blue spirit chuckles, saying that Jae-young-woon is basically a demon himself. Confused, the external master of the mansion can only think that he has no idea who Mok is talking to. Suddenly, purple veins spread throughout his body, and he begins to feel something overwhelming. He feels a crushing pressure and wonders what's happening to his body. In his mind, Sang considers that the person in front of him looks exactly like the third young master, but he is resistant to acupuncture. And now something is gripping his heart, but he can't sense his presence. Terrified, he wonders if he's discovered something he wasn't meant to. We see the demon monk releasing numerous hands from his mouth which are entering Wonbaek's body. Confused, Sang asks, "Who is Jong?" But the only response Moke gives is, "I am the third young master of the Sword Mansion, Mok." On another day, we see the sun rising over a mountain valley. Inside the Mok mansion, Go is walking around, reflecting that something strange is happening. He notes to himself that when he woke up, the bed was destroyed, and the mansion's external guards were far more polite than usual. Just yesterday, they were practically looking at him and his master as if they were criminals, treating them like outcasts. Suddenly, a guard interrupts Chan, bowing to him and offering a warm welcome. Chan bows in return, but all he can do is wonder what in the world is going on in that place. As Go approached the room of his master, he saw a familiar silhouette that left him both frightened and in shock. Inside the room stood the mansion's external master, Wonbaek, standing beside Mok. When our protagonist noticed that his servant had arrived, he told Sang that the young man could leave. Wonbaek bowed to Mok and then exited the room, passing by Go, greeting him silently as he left. Mok, who was calmly eating, remarked to Go that he arrived just in time as breakfast was already on the table. Still in shock and desperate with everything happening before his eyes, Go asked his young master what was going on. However, Mok only replied that his servant should sit down and eat, as he would explain everything afterward. Mok then mentioned that he had something to ask Go, and as the guard sat down, he quickly responded that his master could ask whatever he wanted. Our protagonist then asked Go if he could teach him the basics of the Sword Mansion's martial arts. Chan, who was about to take a bite of food, spat it out upon hearing the question and immediately asked if his master was serious. The third son of the mansion explained that earlier he had tried to learn the moves from the secret manual, but realized something was off. Confused, Mok asked the blue spirit, saying he was sure he had followed the instructions in the manual, but wondered why the moves weren't connecting. The blonde spirit, after analyzing the movements and thinking for a moment, simply replied that those techniques were advanced. She explained that the movements were designed for a higher-level martial artist, meaning they required a superior level of understanding. In short, she told him that he wouldn't be able to master advanced martial arts without first understanding the basics. He was trying to build a pyramid starting from the top. She also elaborated that what Mok was trying to learn was intended for someone already at a higher martial arts realm, helping them surpass their current limits. It involved removing unnecessary movements to improve efficiency, but it was useless for Mok since he didn't even know the fundamentals. In other words, she concluded the technique was pointless without a basic grasp of martial arts. After explaining everything, Mok told Go that he couldn't grasp the essence of adamantine without basic martial arts training first. The head guard stood up excitedly, slamming his hands on the table and asking if the boy really wanted to learn this and if he planned to become the mansion master. Mok immediately replied that becoming the mansion master wasn't his goal, he just thought it would be useful in the near future because it would make him stronger. Chan, however, argued that it wasn't just useful, it was an incredible technique sought after by everyone in the Murim, something that many desired to learn. Go also warned that mastering such a technique might cause trouble in the future, but all Mok said was that he wouldn't go around flaunting it. Sitting back down, the guard admitted that he couldn't teach the basics of martial arts to his master for a specific reason. He then explained that he didn't even have knowledge of those techniques himself since the basic martial arts of the Mok Sword Mansion were restricted to the inner family members. He clarified that the basic techniques of the mansion, such as the new Mok techniques and the beginner sword technique, were only taught to those within the Mok lineage. Finally, Go informed Mok that the only people who knew those techniques were the mansion master and the other young masters. Concerned, Mok asked if those were really the only people who had access to them, and unfortunately, Chan confirmed it. Reflecting on this, the guard remarked that it was a bad situation since Gyeong-woon was enemies with the other young masters, and it was risky because he wasn't a true Mok by blood. However, the boy quickly stood up and commented that he had no choice but to resort to another option. He walked out of the room and asked Go to follow him, saying they were going to a certain place. Go asked where they were headed, and Mok replied that he was going to find someone who could teach him those techniques. Chan tried to stop him, warning that it could be suspicious, but the boy retorted that he couldn't accomplish anything if he lived in fear of being discovered. The guard was about to ask who would train their young master, but then he saw something shocking that left him speechless. A short time later, while observing a training session, the guard couldn't help but wonder if it really had to be the youngest one. Mok had set his sights on his younger brother, Yuchun, because he was extremely dedicated and, of all the siblings, the most skilled in martial arts. Gyeong-woon attempts to approach him for a conversation, but Go immediately tries to stop him, grabbing Gyeong-woon's shoulder. Chan reminds him once again of the incident where Mok insulted Yuchun's mother. However, Mok replies that he already knows about that and sees no issue. Go, clearly still haunted by the memory of that day, recalls a flashback where Mok was screaming in pain. He adds that during that day, the third young master's legs and ribs were broken in multiple places, leaving him crying and shouting. In short, it was a complete disaster. And on top of that, Yuchun still holds a deep grudge against the third young master, Mok. Most importantly, Yuchun is a prodigy, having reached the peak realm at just 16 years old, becoming a monstrous talent. The blue spirit who was watching the scene remarked to Mok that the youngest brother was indeed quite useful. As she observes the young boy, she notes that there aren't many people his age with such a large aura, acknowledging that the boy is truly a genius. Smiling, she warns Mok to be careful, as she cannot use all her powers during the day. Despite the warnings, Gyeongwon remains calm and unfazed. Chan, closing his eyes in resignation, suggests that they should abandon the idea and find someone else. However, when he opens his eyes again, he realizes that the young master is already approaching Yuchun. Yuchun, meanwhile, was in a stance to strengthen his muscles, but he soon notices his brother's presence. Irritated and still harboring resentment from the past, he begins to exude aura and anger upon seeing Mok. Our protagonist raises his hand and greets his brother. Yuchun, confused, wonders why Mok isn't afraid of him and then orders him to leave if he doesn't want to be beaten again. However, he notices something strange and steps out of his stance. In Mok's hand is the secret martial arts technique book. With a look of bargaining, Mok asks his brother if he isn't interested in it. Suspicious, Yuchun questions how he can know if the book is real or not. Without hesitation, Gyeongwon tosses the book to his brother and tells him to see for himself. Yuchun catches the book in midair, opens it, and begins to read, shocked by what he sees. He realizes the book is genuine, containing all the principles for advancing in martial arts, and that it is indeed the Mansion Master's secret manual. However, he soon notices that several pages are missing and confused. He asks Mok where they are. Mok, without hesitation, points to his head, implying that the missing pages are in his memory. Irritated, Yuchun demands to know where his brother got the book. Still unbothered, Mok replies that it doesn't matter where it came from. What matters is that it now belongs to him. Furious, Yuchun yells, asking why his older brother came to see him. He accuses Mok of trying to elevate himself, thinking he would become the mansion master with that book. Yuchun then throws the book at Mok, ordering him to leave immediately. Mok picks up the book from the ground and says calmly that there's been a misunderstanding. He explains that he came to negotiate because he has no interest in becoming the mansion master. Yuchun, still enraged, asks if Mok truly doesn't care about becoming the master. Before our protagonist can respond, Yuchun punches him squarely in the nose, sending him flying. Seeing this, Go-chin panics, calling out to his young master as he is flung across the room. With the golden aura surrounding his body, the fourth son demands to know if Mok truly thought he would believe him. He points out that it seems Gyeongwon has forgotten what happened 2 years ago, so he's going to help him remember, to ensure that Mok never tries something like this again. Wiping the blood from his nose, our protagonist remains calm. In his thoughts, Mok recalls that Yuchun is indeed in the peak realm, and he admits to himself that the boy is truly different. Analyzing Yuchun's aura, Mok compares him to all the strong individuals he has encountered and concludes that his younger brother is a true monster. Mok then reflects that this isn't something he can resolve with luck, acknowledging that his reaction speed is no match for Yuchun's. Mok begins to question whether he could become that strong if he learned martial arts, and if so, whether he could avenge his grandfather. Sarcastically, Gyeongwon comments that his brother had strength and tact, but seeing this, the youngest brother, Yuchun, seems even more displeased with Mok's audacity. Yuchun walks toward Mok, who is getting back on his feet, and tells him that it seems he needs more punches to make him understand. Mok merely replies that it's natural for his brother not to believe anything he says, and Yuchun agrees, grabbing Mok by the collar. Yuchun states that he had no intention of believing a single word out of Mok's mouth and prepares once again to punch him. With a sinister expression, Gyeongwon remarks that it's a shame, adding that he may have to give the secret manual to Lady Seok or their second brother. Hearing this, Yuchun is taken aback, growing even angrier as he realizes what Mok is plotting. Gyeongwon wonders aloud what would happen if he handed the secret manual to one of their other brothers and questions whether any of them would allow Yuchun to live in peace. However, Mok quickly points out that it's unlikely, given that Yuchun is the most beloved successor candidate in the eyes of the Mansion Master. Fuming, Yuchun asks if his brother is seriously threatening him, even knowing who he is. Our protagonist calmly asserts that Yuchun's life depends on this and that his words aren't empty, but rather a real threat. After hearing this, Yuchun stands in stunned silence, unsure of how to respond. Looking into Mok's eyes, Yuchun asks, "Who are you?" With a serious expression, he demands to know if the person standing before him is really Gyeongwon. Go-chan, thinking the entire plan was about to fall apart, is desperate but remains silent. Mok also stays silent for a moment, simply staring at the monstrous figure before him. Finally breaking the silence, Mok asks, "Who else would I be if not Gyeongwon?" He continues, noting that Yuchun talks as if he knows everything about him. But Yuchun responds that he knows Mok very well. Yuchun recounts how he beat Gyeongwon like trash 2 years ago, leaving him traumatized and terrified ever since. Mok concedes that Yuchun is right but says there's much more to it. With a serious expression, Mok asks his brother if, beyond their familial connection and that incident years ago, what does Yuchun truly know about him? In an imposing tone, he questions whether Yuchun knows what he likes, what he hates, what he thinks about, or why he doesn't want to become the mansion master. This agitates Yuchun, and he snaps back, asking if Mok really knows him, considering that Yuchun and the other brothers labeled him a lesser bastard and pushed him away. Yuchun points out that none of the brothers ever gave him a chance or recognized him, so why wasn't Mok trying to negotiate with the other brothers instead? To everyone's surprise, Jaehyung-won responds that Yuchun is the best. Upon hearing this, Yuchun is left in shock and silent for a moment. Holding back tears, he remembers how he was always insulted and ostracized because of his inferior status, always alone and isolated. He trained all these years to be acknowledged by someone, and now that someone was standing right in front of him, the last person he ever expected to recognize him. Yuchun also reflects on how he thought his brother would hate him for what happened 2 years ago. Looking up at the sky, he wonders if he too needs to change. Laughing, Yuchun tells Mok that it's fine, and that he's willing to hear out the negotiation and whatever Mok has to offer. With a smile, Jaehyung-won realizes that his plan has finally succeeded and tells his brother that this situation is perfect. He prepares to state what he wants in exchange for the manual, but the conversation is cut off and we fast forward to a few hours later. We see our protagonist walking alongside Go-chan, humming happily as if he's in a great mood. Watching the young master stroll ahead of him, who reflects that he has no choice but to admit that what Mok did was incredible. Smiling, he thinks about how he was wondering how Mok would convince his own brother, and it turned out to be completely different from what he expected. Mok was flawless. Go remarks that Mok had to devise a plan because his true brother knew martial arts, and we flash back to the moment when Jaehyung-won told his brother that he had 3 requests. Mok's first request was that Yuchun leave him in peace if he ever became the mansion master, and his second request was for financial support. Yuchun agreed without hesitation and then asked what the third request was. It was revealed that Jaehyung-won acted as if the third request was of little importance, before finally asking his brother to teach him the basics of the mansion's martial arts. Go had been worried that his young master would be exposed as a false Mok by asking directly for such a request, but Yuchun didn't suspect anything. Jaehyung-won's plan worked by validating his brother's strength and fulfilling his need for recognition, which led Yuchun to teach him the basics without any doubt. Even more surprising was that even though Yuchun, a genius, took over 2 hours to memorize the secret manual, Mok memorized everything after hearing it just once. Back in the present, Go reflects that it was fortunate to have stayed by Mok's side, even though it wasn't what he initially wanted. He then tells his master that he is impressed with the plan, though he points out that Mok still handed the secret manual to Yuchun. Our protagonist simply replies that it wasn't important since he didn't teach Yuchun properly. Confused, Chen asks what his master means, and Mok responds that he'll tell his loyal subordinate. He explains that he altered the instructions slightly for his brother, changing something every 13 or 14 characters. Jaehyung-won admits that he was afraid of being caught but managed to leave without being discovered. Hearing this, Go realizes that Mok would never give up such valuable knowledge easily. He also notes that if Yuchun makes a mistake, he could lose his key or even die. Looking at his young master, Go remarks that his master is truly devilish. In complete shock, Go can only say that his young master is completely insane. Later in the Phoenix Pavilion, we see the shaman reflection meditating. Suddenly, someone enters the room, tapping their staff against the floor. The pavilion master approaches his subordinate and mentions that they have heard nothing about New Moon. The master also comments that she failed her mission, betrayed Lady Seok, and exposed her, which led to their relations with Seok being severed. He further explains that their image has been damaged because of this. Thus, he orders his beloved disciple Reflection to find New Moon and uncover the truth to restore their reputation. Reflection, with a terrifying beast strapped to his back, agrees and addresses the man before him as master. Later, near a forest, we see New Moon's blood-stained hat. Reflection stands before the remains of his former companion, New Moon. As he examines the scene, he reflects that New Moon was one of the 3 most powerful shamans within the Phoenix Pavilion, yet she met such a cruel death. Something was clearly off. He then uses an ability called Fusion, forming a hand seal, and golden light emanates from his hands. He performs a ritual, invoking the authority of the Northern Keto, and declares that everything that transpired there will be revealed. A black mist begins to surround him. With one final hand seal, the shaman completes his ritual and begins to see what happened to his companion. Reflection sees everything unfold before his eyes, a horrific vision. He witnesses the moment when New Moon was attacked by the blue spirit and feels an overwhelming pressure. His expression, once filled with confidence, turns to fear as he spins around in desperation as if he had experienced everything himself. However, the illusion finally ends and all that remains is New Moon's hat. The shaman can't believe that what he saw was truly the blue spirit. Looking up at the sky, he declares that he will need to prepare as much as possible for the unexpected situation that has caught him off guard. Elsewhere, we see the blue spirit watching our protagonist as he trains. Mok is following the movements from the mansion's secret manual. He moves with perfect precision, almost as if he were dancing, practicing martial arts. Even his strikes are majestic, each executed with flawless technique. A simple punch carries an extraordinary amount of skill and excellence. Watching this, the blonde spirit can only ask herself one question: what on earth is happening? The blue spirit explains that when someone starts learning martial arts, they begin with the most basic techniques and various movements are connected to form these fundamentals. One must repeat these same movements to become proficient. Yet even though this was Mok's first attempt, he hadn't made a single mistake. All he needed was to build up his muscles and continue practicing, and in truth, he didn't need to practice the techniques any longer. In other words, it wasn't an exaggeration to call the small devil before her a genius. Confused, the spirit admits that she had expected him to beg her to teach him, even though she wouldn't have helped. The blue spirit starts having some slightly embarrassing thoughts, musing that if Mok did beg, she might just assist him. Suddenly flustered by her own thoughts, she snaps back, wondering what she was thinking. This startles Mok, causing him to stop training momentarily. Suddenly, Go arrives at the scene called by his young master and informs Mok that he is there as requested. Mok cheers, saying he wanted to ask his subordinate a favor. We transition to another location, Zhongyang County, where we see people walking through the streets. At the Eternal Orchid Pavilion, Chan is sitting in a chair, waiting for something. Holding a piece of paper, the confused young man wonders what it could be. He recalls the moment he asked Mok the same thing, but Mok simply replied that it was something he was looking for. Back in the present, Chan thinks that the Eternal Orchid Pavilion is the only information network in the area. However, they are the least skilled, so not much can be expected from them. Frustrated, he wonders why he's going through all this trouble. Settling back into the chair, Chan reflects that he's turned into a loyal dog and questions when that happened. On the other hand, he also admits that despite this realization, it doesn't really matter. After all, he has no life goals. He was abandoned by his parents and raised as an assassin. In this era of talented individuals, he was essentially forced into retirement, and after meeting Cam, he worked under him. Cam, however, was not a good person and treated him like a mere tool. Go muses that his current master, Mok, also treats him like a tool, but he doesn't have any complaints because he wasn't good at anything else in life. Thus, his only goal was to drift through life, knowing that once he became useless, he would be discarded again. Sighing, he remarks to himself that life is better now, at least because he's working less. Still, he is concerned about Mok's activities as they are demonic in nature, and the young master is also under the threat of poison. However, Go shrugs it off, saying that it doesn't matter. He'll just do as he's told. Suddenly, someone enters the room. A short, plump man arrives, accompanied by a beautiful girl. This man is Guak, the informant and owner of the pavilion. As he approaches, Guak apologizes to Go for keeping him waiting. Chan had heard that this man was from one of the branches of the House sect, but he was already drunk at the time. Go notices the girl next to Guak and asks what's going on. Guak casually replies that she's the new recruit now working at the pavilion. The man asks Go if he doesn't think the girl is beautiful while making inappropriate advances toward her. Chan coldly retorts that this is an important mission for a significant individual, so Guak should send the girl away. Guak insists that it's not necessary. However, Go immediately commands the girl to leave again. Reluctantly, Guak orders the girl to step outside. Yet, as the informant gazes at the young woman's beauty, he moves to grope her, suggesting she wait for him. Irritated, Go slams the table, demanding that Guak stop immediately. But to everyone's surprise, the new recruit snaps, slapping Guak hard across the face. Dumbfounded, the fat man begins to curse at her, but the woman reveals herself, declaring she could no longer tolerate his behavior. She removes her wig, revealing her true identity. As Guak continues to curse at her, she grabs his top knot and leaps over him in one swift motion. In the blink of an eye, the woman twists his neck, snapping it with deadly precision. No one expected it, but Guak's life is instantly snuffed out as the woman gracefully lands on the floor. Chan, upon hearing the woman call him low-rank assassin number 86, begins to draw his sword and questions what's happening. Before he has time to think, the woman kicks a table toward him, and Chan realizes there's no way to dodge, panicking. At that moment, the woman says it has been a long time since she last saw him, addressing him by his old assassin rank. She then throws several sharp needles in his direction, which hit Chan and cause his body to freeze. As the woman strips off her disguise, revealing another outfit underneath, she expresses disappointment that number 86, Go Chan, hadn't recognized her. She then reveals herself as He Charon, the leader of the Flying Assassins sect, one of the 4 major assassin organizations. Confused, Chan asks what she is doing there, and she explains that she is the first and only granddaughter of the sect's previous leader. Within the Flying Assassins sect, there is an achievement for those who can complete 100 assassinations and eliminate 100 humans. This ritual is required to become the leader of the Flying Assassins, and once completed, the individual will be officially supported as the sect leader. The one who accomplishes this feat is also granted a secret poisonous weapon called the Sharp Benevolence Needle upon assuming leadership of the sect. At this point, we see He Charon helping Go Chan remove the paralyzing needle she had embedded in him earlier. While this happens, Go thinks to himself that the fact that she has this weapon means she has now become the leader of the sect, something he had thought was impossible. Chan recalls that He Charon was always the only viable successor to the sect leadership, and she was incredibly talented, but her disqualifying trait was her volatile personality. He remembers how many believed she wouldn't be able to kill 100 people due to her strong-willed and irritating personality. He also remembers how arrogant and troublesome she was in the past, all while observing her closely. Suddenly, Charon yanks out the last needle, causing Go to wince in pain from her carelessness. Charon comments that she didn't expect to see him in such a state and remarks that it was quite a pleasant surprise. Go agrees and addresses her as Miss, but she immediately corrects him, insisting that she is the leader of the sect now. Seeing this, Go-chen thinks to himself that he knew this was going to happen, and it's clear her personality has only gotten worse. Charon questions if Go's attitude is because he's retired, as he's not treating her with the respect she deserves. Immediately, Go kneels and addresses her as sect leader, but her remains irritated, annoyed that she had to insist on such respect. After a moment, she calms down and says that's better, but Go is left confused by her sudden change in tone. She then explains that she had been waiting for the first son of the Sword Mansion, as she had heard about his indulgent lifestyle, but now she thinks Go will do instead. Still confused, Go listens as Charon reveals she received information regarding what happened to intermediate assassin number 29. Hearing this, Chan immediately realizes she's talking about Khan, the guard. Charon confirms that Khan failed his assassination mission, and Go thinks to himself about the golden rule of the Flying Assassins sect. That rule states that if you begin an assassination, you must finish it. Hud explains that Khan was a highly skilled assassin, and she hadn't expected him to fail in such a way. Finally, it reveals her true purpose. She is here to take the head of the third son of the Sword Mansion, Mok Gyeongwon, to complete the mission Khan failed. Hearing this, Chan is overcome with shock and doesn't know how to react, realizing the chaos this will cause. Later that evening, a beautiful rainbow stretches across the Mok Mansion as the sun slowly sets. Outside on the training field, the Blue Spirit is watching our protagonist train, and the boy seems fully immersed in his exercises. Irritated by the wait, the spirit asks how long Mok plans to keep training. Startled by her sudden interruption, Mok glances at the sky and notices that it's nearly nightfall. Agreeing with her, he realizes it's time to stop training for now. Mok suggests they have dinner, and upon hearing this, the blonde spirit smiles warmly, as if she had been waiting for this moment. Later, inside the mansion, we see someone eating uncontrollably, with no manners whatsoever, as if their life depended on it. Mok sat nearby, calmly reading an unknown book, seemingly uninterested in the food, while next to him, a girl was euphorically devouring her meal. After finishing her meal and catching her breath, the girl exclaimed how delicious it was. Mok, slightly curious, shifted his attention from the book and asked if the food was really that good. As she opened a bottle of sake, the woman replied that eating was one of the greatest pleasures in life. She added that Mok would surely understand one day. It was revealed that the Blue Spirit had possessed the body of one of the mansion's maids who had brought food a few days ago. The spirit seemed to be enjoying it. Suddenly, the hand holding the sake bottle lid started trembling as purple veins spread across it, a sign that the body was rejecting the spirit's presence. The Blue Spirit, seeing this, realized that the body couldn't endure the possession for even 15 minutes, which irritated her. Mok, observing this, remarked that a normal body likely couldn't handle a spirit of such a high level. The blonde spirit finally left the woman's body. Sitting down next to Mok, the spirit prepared to speak. Glancing at the book Mok was reading, she commented on his deep interest in shamanism. It was revealed that the book Mok was reading was titled Spirit Summoning Techniques of 6 Masters. Mok responded that it was indeed fascinating, and out of all the books the spirit had taken from New Moon, this one was by far the most intriguing. Our protagonist was about to mention something about the spirit of a dead person when he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He stayed silent for a moment, trying to sense something. With a serious expression, Mok turned in a specific direction as if he had detected a murderous intent nearby. The Blue Spirit, impressed by his heightened senses, remarked on how sharp his instincts were becoming. Mok's expression changed to one of shock as he sensed a dark energy and a crushing pressure fill in the room. In another part of the mansion, Go was handing a set of servant clothes to Charon, telling her that these were the outfits the maids typically wore. However, Charon, in a haughty tone, immediately rejected the clothes, saying they were hideous and that she couldn't wear them. As this played out, Chan could only think that the situation was rapidly spiraling out of control and that everything was on the verge of going wrong. He bit his lip, unsure of what to do, repeating the same thoughts over and over. He mused that if this woman was indeed the leader of the Flying Assassins, it meant she had likely reached the peak supreme level. The day she found out that he had betrayed her brother Cam, she would surely kill him. Chan informed Charon that he would wait outside while she changed, and after saying this, he began to leave. However, Charon, for some reason, decided to tease the young man, shamelessly asking if he wanted to watch her change. Attempting to seduce him, she claimed that such a chance was rare, and as she spoke, she started removing part of her clothing. Completely flustered and embarrassed, Chan didn't know how to respond. When he finally turned around, he saw Charon laughing at him, mocking him for taking her seriously. Still, she expressed her gratitude to Go, saying that entering the mansion had been easy, thanks to him. Go merely replied that it was nothing. Feigning loyalty, He added that he did it because he wanted to avenge his senior brother as well. However, in his mind, he knew he was only saying this to avoid being killed by her. With a gentle smile, Sharon commented that having Go on her side was like having an entire army, even though he was retired, acknowledging that he was still a valuable ally. Her tone shifted, and she added that she trusted her companion greatly. Just as Go was preparing to leave, he was suddenly struck by multiple paralyzing needles. Betraying him, Sharon explained that she had only said what Go wanted to hear, but admitted it was all a lie. As she walked toward him, she coldly remarked that if Go hadn't acted when his fellow assassin was killed, it meant he had shifted his loyalty to another target. Sharon continued mocking Go, remarking that it was amusing to see him acting as if he was waiting for the right opportunity, even though he was a washed-up, useless assassin who had essentially retired due to his incompetence. Hearing this, Chan silently questioned if she had known everything from the start and berated himself for not suspecting her earlier, especially with how friendly she had been acting. She went on to ridicule him, saying that he hadn't changed at all despite getting older and was still the same pathetic idiot. Sharon walked over to Go, sarcastically asking if he understood the concept of learning. With a terrifying expression, she declared that people like him, hopeless, irredeemable pieces of trash, deserved only to die. At that moment, Chan wondered where everything had gone wrong, why that demon had killed the real third son, and why he had betrayed Mr. Cam. But deep down, he knew the real reason for everything. He was simply weak. That's why he found himself in such a horrible situation. After drawing a knife, Sharon coldly announced that she would lie, claiming that Go killed the young master to avenge Cam, and then took his own life. That would be her alibi. As she prepared to stab Chan, all he could think about was how terrible a way it was to die. Suddenly, a hand burst through the wall of the room, and Mok began using his binding ritual technique. The knife in Sharon's hand flew through the air towards Mok, who caught it effortlessly. Kicking down the wall, Mok entered the room, leaving both Sharon and Go-chan in shock, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Seeing his savior, Go-chan began to cry tears of joy. At that moment, Mok asked if his guard was in danger, and for the first time, Chan thought to himself that this demon might actually be alright. However, before Go could celebrate, Sharon grabbed him by the collar and yanked him backward. She pressed a knife against Go's throat, using him as a hostage, and warned Mok to stay still. She threatened to kill Go without hesitation if Mok so much as moved a muscle. For a moment, Mok stayed silent, and Go became tense. In his mind, Go thought that Sharon must have investigated Mok before coming here and probably assumed he was only at the level of a third-rank fighter. But after witnessing Mok's telekinetic technique, she must now believe he's a transcendent master, shocked by his skill. What she couldn't possibly know, however, was that the boy before her didn't care at all about human life. Mok was a complete demon. Mok, without saying a word, raised the knife like an assassin and began walking toward Sharon, showing no regard for Go's life. Go-chan was convinced he was about to die. Mok readied himself as if he was about to strike Sharon, but instead Mok did something that left everyone in the room speechless. He threw the knife to the ground, disarming himself completely. In an unprecedented display of compassion, Mok asked Sharon to release his friend. Both Go and Sharon were stunned, unable to comprehend such an action from the notorious Mok. Daeongwon told Sharon that if she let Go go, he would let her leave unscathed and forgive her actions, stating that he was only doing this out of whim. He also added that it would be a shame to lose Go-chan since he still had a lot of work to do, and suggested that Sharon leave while he was feeling merciful. Go, still in shock, couldn't believe that this demon was trying to save him. A tense silence filled the room as Sharon began to consider her next move. She refused to let Go go and asked how Mok dared to make such demands of her. Sharon thought to herself that this bastard had no right to speak this way to the leader of the Flying Assassin sect. Then she sneered, saying that if Mok truly wanted to save Go, he should kneel before her and beg for his life. Only then would she spare the guard. For a moment, the two stared at each other, locked in a standoff. Then, in a move that no one could have ever imagined, Jaehoon began to kneel as if he was truly about to humble himself. Sharon could not believe that Mok would actually kneel to save a mere guard. However, Mok had no intention of doing so. Instead, he quickly grabbed the knife from the ground and lunged at his opponent, issuing an order to his spirit familiar. Suddenly, a feminine hand materialized from thin air, moving towards Sharon, and a strange blood-like substance began to spread beneath her feet, trapping her in place. The blue spirit revealed itself, attacking Sharon with overwhelming power while carefully avoiding Go. With a wave of blood, the spirit sent both Sharon and Go flying across the room. Sharon was utterly confused, unable to comprehend what was happening since she couldn't see the blue spirit. As she prepared to retaliate, she noticed that whatever caused the disturbance had disappeared in the blink of an eye. The blue spirit appeared again, commenting that, as she had suspected, Sharon had reached the ascendant level, which allowed her to sense the spirit's energy and avoid its full force. However, Sharon had forgotten one key detail. Mok was still in the room. Mok revealed himself, standing right behind her, poised to strike. Sharon managed to turn around just in time, but her weapon was swiftly knocked from her hand by Mok's dagger. She leaped backward, trying to gain some distance from the maniac in front of her. Without wasting time, Mok thanked Go for his return and quickly removed the paralyzing needles from his subordinate's body. As the situation unfolded, Charon grew increasingly nervous, unsure of what was happening. She could feel strange energy around her but couldn't see anything, still wondering what kind of sorcery Mok was using. Remembering the moment when Mok had thrown the dagger, Charon realized that his physical strength was not that of a transcendent fighter. She deduced that based on the force behind the throw, Mok couldn't possibly be at that level and decided to finish him off before things escalated. Charon pulled a strange object from her back, preparing to strike. Seeing this, Go immediately recognized it as the Needle of Death's pinnacle. Charon readied the needle and prepared to launch it at Mok, while Mok, unaware of the danger, began activating his binding ritual technique, warning her that it was the worst possible plan. Charon, confident, threw the needle at him, retorting that her plan was, in fact, perfect. Mok tried to use his ritual technique to draw the weapon into his hand, but something went wrong. He found himself unable to move and the needle was unaffected by his powers. Go explained that the needle, though it could only be used once due to its unique design, had the ability to pierce through ki and remain unaffected by it. At that moment, the blue spirit panicked, seeing her favored mortal in grave danger, and rushed to save him. But it was too late. The needle was already inches away from striking Mok's chest. At the last second, Go-chan hurled himself into the fray, pushing Mok out of the needle's path and taking the hit himself. Both the blue spirit and Charon were stunned, unable to comprehend why Go had sacrificed himself. Go was struck squarely in the chest by the needle, the force of the blow sending him flying backward before crashing to the ground. For the first time, the heartless and merciless Mok showed genuine concern as he watched his loyal guard, Go, lying on the floor after taking the hit meant for him.